Went down, down, down into the ring of fire. Went down, down, down. It didn't get any higher. Went down, down, down. Ring of fire. Ring of fire. You gotta sit through my long intros if you want to sit through this long video. Attention spans are dwindling nowadays. Hey, thank you all for watching because the comments were great. Some of you might be picking up from Meat 2 instead of Candy 2. I'm recording them together, of course. I should note a recommendation from my friend Austin that you should finish reading one epilogue and then move to the other. That alternating is probably going to be kind of difficult for your brain, you know, and I can see it. I'm sorry I won't have all 4 parts out immediately though. Now, the other thing is a friend had recommended, quote, Machete Order, which is apparently there is sort of a big break in Meat at page 25, and again, Candy's around 40 pages, Meat's around 25 pages, so I'm thinking part 2 I'll go up to page 25 here. And what Machete Order is apparently going up to 25 in Meat, going to read all of Candy, and then going back to Meat. If you'd like to do that, which is apparently the recommended order of my buddy Wyatt, then you can also do that by watching Meat Part 1, Meat Part 2, then going through Candy, then going back to Meat. And I'm sure I gave you this information too late, but so sorry if you watched Candy Part 1. So sorry, but nah, you're probably fine. You know, I had a very lengthy conversation with my wonderful friend Adam that I might try to recap. But his own experiences, I knew some things about Candy and told him he would probably more enjoy starting with Meat because I thought Candy was going to be very, offensively outrageous. And that he would not be into that sort of thing. I said, he decided. I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, I think I'll start with Meat. And he did not have a good time after the first 5 chapters. He's someone who really likes thinks the female characters in Homestuck are much better written and more enjoyable. And he's like, none of them are here in the first 5 chapters of Meat. And it is doing dirty the whole lot of the female characters right now, or, it's doing whatever with Jane and Dirk. It's, it's demonizing them. It's not making them out to be malicious, but it's definitely tarnishing their character and taking it in a different direction, which I don't know if he cares about too much. I don't know if he cares about the Alpha Kids too much. And let's say, God, I know Joy, who works at Act Omega, loves the shit out of the Alpha Kids and is very annoyed about the epilogue. Anyways, he started reading Candy afterwards. I told him, okay, maybe try Candy, because I actually have read the first 10 chapters of both, and I think I enjoyed the beginnings of Candy a little more. And next time I checked in with him, he was up to chapter 18 on Candy, and he was like, yeah, it is going downhill, but it's still enjoyable to read. I think Candy is more enjoyable at the beginning. And if you have only seen the first part of Meat, then maybe consider going over to Candy if you didn't enjoy it. Or after the second part, follow, quote, Machete Order and do it. That friend who recommended Machete Order, okay, this part you can definitely maybe skip over, but I think it's interesting. The friend who recommended Machete Order is someone who's a fan of the ending of Danganronpa V3, which is a game with a controversial ending that is upsetting to a whole lot of viewers, and upsetting in the way that I just think it wasn't good, right? But he said it works very well thematically, and it has to annoy some of the viewers to accomplish those themes, which sounds very similar to the Homestuck Epilogues. And at the time, I did not buy it. I said, no fiction should have to compromise the enjoyability of the viewers to get across its themes. You absolutely, I think, can have both coexist, and he was not buying it. And I was talking a lot of shit back then, but now I'm seeing his point of view on it, where there are a lot of people that are not going to like these epilogues, but thematically, is that necessary for the meta whatever of the epilogues? Maybe it is, and in this case, I'm alright with them, because I am someone who really experiences fiction somewhat as a passive observer. I don't get very emotionally invested in fiction, or I don't get upset by it. Usually what I take away from something is mostly the good things, and I will reflect on the bad things in retrospect, but I am not actively offended by much when I'm reading, unless it is like grossly, terribly offensive. This, in the epilogue, the bad parts of it, or parts that people will find bad, I just find interesting. And see, other friend that I was talking to, who switched from meat to candy, really does not share this. He's like, why would I read anything if I'm not emotionally invested in it? I'm like, well, okay, no, you have to be. There are things that you read because they have nuance and not necessarily emotional value. There is very little emotional value in the beginnings of Homestuck, I think, but there's an incredible amount of nuance you might take interest in. And if you want to bring it back to Danganronpa V3, I was emotionally invested in Danganronpa V3 to where the ending upset me, because I was like, it could have been something much better. And here, I'm on the other side, where I think these epilogues, they're doing okay. I think I'm having a good time reading them, and I'm not really emotionally invested, so there's something to ponder there. There's a lot of shit I just said, and if you're listening to it and it sounds like I'm rambling, it's because I am, and sorry, but interesting stuff to think about. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you care, maybe you don't. Long intro. Hope you skipped it. It's gonna be should stop doing all these long breaks in my Let's Reads that I make people sit through, probably. But hey, if you are upset by the epilogues, consider just finding them interesting. If you don't like them, you don't have to accept them, and to be more of a passive observer, if that's even possible. I don't know, but there's this great video about it's like a 12-minute video. I don't remember the guy's name. About how there's a passive viewing experience in the movie Spirited Away, and really like that video, because it points out in a lot of Ghibli movies there isn't like an objective good and bad. There's just like a world that you're put in with all this nuance, and you're along for the ride. You don't have to be emotionally invested to appreciate all of what you're seeing. Like in Howl's Moving Castle or in Princess Mononoke, there's a war, but there's no good and bad side of the war. The war itself is bad, or it's shown to be destructive, but you're not told this is bad, it's terrible war. Maybe you are in Grave of the Fireflies. I don't know. Shit, I am definitely rambling. Anyways, it's all things that were on my mind, and if you find them interesting, good for you. If you don't, I'm fucking sorry. I don't know. I'll tell you what. Now that I'm reading meat, I got myself some strawberries, some black grapes. You know, I don't really like red grapes. Black grapes are amazing. Thompson grapes, if you ever have them, they're hard to find, but they are so good. If you haven't had black grapes, like, they're just a totally different thing. And I love them to death. I got some Thin Mints, and I got some ginger ale. You know, for meat. Right. Sorry about yakking on there, but I will start now. And if you were scrubbing through the video, I just shouldn't have clicked onto that. But I don't think it's an issue. Then it's no problem, because you will see when I have clicked to the next page, and that will be how you can tell that I've shut up. I will be going to page 25. Maybe I'll go to the bathroom. Already taken so much time. Do I need to go to the bathroom? I guess I'll put when the video really starts in the description. You know, if there's any takeaway from this, it's that you can skip 10 seconds into a YouTube video by pressing L or double tapping on the right side of your mobile screen. That's the takeaway from this entire epilogue from my recordings. Last time on meat, we last time on meat there was John gathering everybody, the beta kids getting trapped in the juju, and this election going on where Karkat is running against Jane. Let's continue. After I finish this Thin Mint. I've kept you long enough. Yeah, boy. That's that, you think? Your glasses are broken forever, and you totally fucked up and underestimated young Lord English. Rose should have known better than to trust this to you alone. Rose. Your smart, amazing friend Rose. You can almost hear her voice now. Listen closer, jackass. Oh, wait, you do hear her voice, vibrating low and muted through the wall of your cell. You've only realized now that your cell is walls, because it's awfully bright in here. It's so white that nothing in the cell is casting a shadow. Looking around, you realize there's no apparent source to all this bright light, making it hard to tell where the floor ends and the walls begin. John, are you there? Her voice is muffled, coming from what you presume to be an adjacent room similar to yours on the other side of the wall. Yeah, I'm here. Oh, thank goodness. Everyone's accounted for then. Are you okay? What? Are you okay? I think so. I can barely hear you, though. You can hear a thud from Rose's corner, like someone slumping against the wall in relief. Well, that's what you're doing, at least. Hey. Yeah, I'm fine, too, but this is kind of dorky to say out loud, but I don't feel time. That's not just me, right? You guys feel it, too, or don't? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously space inside this box, but I can't do anything. It's like I'm blind. The noise outside the juju grows. Something sharp and metallic splinters above and rains down on top of the chest. What did my future self say it was we had to do? She never What? I can't hear you. She never really told us what we had to do exactly. Just what was going to happen in a really loose sort of fashion. Does that mean we're stuck? Metallic noises rained down harder, drowning out Rose's attempt at being loud. Plink, plink, smash. Now I can't hear you. Try using less words. The length of the silence coming from Rose's corner communicates just how difficult a task it is for her. She said the juju would get loaded and unloaded. What? So, it just got loaded, I think? With us. So I don't think we're trapped in here forever. We'll be unloaded from it at some point? What? I know it's all a bit abstract, but no, I just can't hear you. John, you suck at yelling. Ah! You stop trying to loudly reassure the worried teens for a moment and just think. Now you understand defeating young Lord English was never supposed to happen. Not the way adult Rose was implying it would. You surmise the other 4 teens remaining outside the juju were the ones meant to be tasked with his defeat, and judging from the cacophony still emanating from the walls of this house and its confining chest, they are taking the task seriously. But what does this mean for the 4 of you? You try to picture what's going on in the battle outside, but it's not easy. Use your imagination. In your imagination, the battle is quite vivid and exciting. The coolness of the action in the mind's eye is belied by the actual sound effects booming all around you, which you can only describe as vaguely stupid. There's a lot of hysterical screaming, which, if you're not mistaken, is coming exclusively from the male combatants. There's a sudden swelling of energy that speaks to a vastness behind its power source, almost as if an outrageous bubble of pure hope were enveloping the stage, is how you would describe it if you didn't mind sounding ridiculous. Then you hear, it can't be, horses? No, not simple horses of flesh and bone. These horses are metal, if we're to believe they're horses at all. Stop using your imagination. This isn't getting you anywhere, and clearly your silly imaginative whims aren't doing the slightest bit of justice to the actual awesome things taking outside there in the heat of the battle. Frankly, your theorized skirmish lost the handle on any legitimacy it might have had the moment you started thinking about horses. You figure no one will ever truly know what's happening out there. You doubt anyone would be able to handle the incredible, raw, unfiltered account of this teen brawl. So it's probably for the best. As you slip out of your fanciful conjecture, which may or may not have included a mechanical horse ambush, you overhear Dave from one of the rooms below you, raising his voice to speak to either you or someone else. You're not sure. You place your ear to the floor again. He's speaking to Jade. They're attempting to reminisce again, to the best of their ability to do so, while also shouting through a wall. Once you more ruefully reflect on these teen versions of your friends and all the questions they must have for each other, what would you even say to them? What would you want to tell them about the happy outcomes, knowing they might never get the chance to experience those things for themselves? Would you tell them about the sad outcomes, thus reinforcing their insecurities and suspicions that they may never be capable of truly living happy lives? You're not even sure you could handle it if you were teen John. You'd have too many follow-up questions, which adult John is in no way prepared to answer. Would you tell them what's up with Roxy and Calliope, again having no real grasp yourself over what's up with them? Would you tell Dave and Carcat, live in a hive together watching TV all day, and Jade maybe kinda sorta lives there too, but nobody quite knows what's going on with that? Would you tell them about Terezi? For some reason, her name feels like nails in your heart. Makes sense, you guess, because there's a lot of sharp letters in it. She had sharp teeth, too. Sharp elbows. Sharp words. Terezi Pyrup was a sharp girl, and maybe what these sharp feelings are trying to tell you is that you miss her more than you realized. She wouldn't have let you neglect relationships with certain friends for so long that you missed whole chapters of their lives. She wouldn't have put up with you moping around with these salamanders for so long. She would have kicked your ass for being such a loser about everything. She would have poked you in the forehead and called you insufferably lame and told you to pick up the damn phone. You would have called her a weirdo and pretended you hated it, and maybe would have even believed you hated it. But now, sitting here in this little white cubicle, contemplating her regrets, you don't think you would have hated it much at all. Would you tell the teens that? You'd probably never tell anyone that, not even her. Another arbitrary thought hits your brain, completely unrelated to the subject of Terezi, or what you would or wouldn't tell a bunch of incarcerated teens, so you think. Am I depressed? You ask aloud, quietly enough that your friends cannot possibly hear it. All the question does is crawl back into your throat and burrow into your gut like it lives there, and it does live there, because it turns out you're really fucking depressed. You're just a giant, wet meat sack of self-involved misery, and all that big, wet, meaty ooze drips out of your mouth every time you open it. All the time and space in the world isn't making it better. It's something you should have been doing for yourself instead of waiting around for things to get better. Well, screw waiting. It's boring as hell. You are John Egbert, after all, immortal creator of worlds, the one and only man to ever completely transcend the partitions of canon itself. You've got those powers, remember? You hold up your hands and form a rectangle with your fingers as you reach outside yourself, outside canon, to the place your retcon powers come from. You focus, you strain, you contemplate with all your might a place you can zap to, any place but here. You wait, and wait, and wait, and nothing happens. You slump back down against the wall, and your despondence eagerly greets you again, like an old friend ready to pat you on the back and say, "Good try, man. I'll always be here for you when you fail." "Thanks, dude," you think. Rose was right. What? The juju has to unload. The what has to what? The only way out of here is for us to wait for someone to let us out. Sorry, guys. Oh. Also, I think I might have depression. We're back on this shit. On Earthsea. I got the Thin Mints, boys. These are actually grasshoppers. They're Thin Mints, but not controlled by the artificial supply and demand of Girl Scouts. I can eat them whenever I damn well please. Why does Homestuck have the word neoliberal in it? There's so much economics. No, I'm ready to read this. It's fine. So we gotta hit Jade right in her neoliberal austerity measures. We are all agreed on that, right? Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. Now she's going to spin some shit about supply-side economics, but we can't let her control the narrative on that one, because the first thing that's going to happen once she begins deregulating the banking industry is that some sweet dumb crocodile down in Consort Land is going to start putting the sparkle glue in the cupcake mix, which isn't even the real issue, that's just surface issues. Right! Definitely. I mean, Earthsea has just been play-acting capitalism the last 5,000 years while we time-skipped ahead to live rad lives as gods without bothering any of the boring shit that goes into making a civilization, which is fine. I mean, you really can't expect a bunch of teens who didn't finish middle school to set up a sustainable form of a social democracy that isn't just blatantly ripped off whatever we incorrectly thought Obama, God rest his soul, was doing back in the day. But Jane's got this old school mentality, she just wants to restrict grist alchemy for the sake of growth, and when that goes down, it'll take 3 seconds flat for some nobody in New Durstown to drop the Earthsea Communist Manifesto, at which point we're in a speed run for either our 20th century, or her first 21st century. We're gonna glitch under the map straight from Marx down to clown dictatorship, which also isn't the real issue. Oh, yeah. Of course. Are you two even listening, or are you just making noises with your mouths? How dare you! I can't believe I'm accused by Dave Strider, reigning emperor, of spewing endless verbal diarrhea directly into my innocent ear ducts every day of my fucking life, or making thoughtless mouth noises. Jade, are you hearing this? I'm scandalized, especially when there are much better things we could all be doing with our mouths. I hate this shit. It's been a really nice day they're all having, and then Jade had to go and say something like that. The air in the hive changes in a way that's palpable, in a way that she can't seem to accurately gauge despite having both superhuman and superdog senses. She's lying on her stomach on the floor, chin in her palms, glasses slid down to the tip of her nose, kicking her legs in the air. Elements of her outfit resemble her god-tier jammies. Peasant skirts, sparkly flats, a bold choice in striped tights. Her tail swishes from side to side, showing off way too much of her thigh, which isn't really all that salacious considering 3 of her bras are thrown over the back of the couch where she crashed last night and the night before that, the better part of 7 years before that. There are other personal effects of hers in the living room too. Plants on the windowsill, her bass guitar sitting in a corner, a horrific looking periodic table that Dave made for her on her 17th birthday pinned above the stairwell. He typed it in Comic Sans and then deep-fried it into oblivion with JPEG artifacts. Everyone in this new room knows each other way too well, so what happens next goes a little like clockwork. Says Karkat for like 30 seconds straight as he retreats into the bulk of his underwear. He scoots a half foot to put his back against the couch where Jade pushes her glasses up the bridge of her nose and looks at him. And Dave, with his preternaturally perfect timing, sweeps a hand over his tablet to bring up a new PowerPoint slide on the TV. He returns to his Comic Sans written political presentation, gruesome artifacts and all, with the grace and proficiency of a man who has diffused an awkward situation in his own household many times per day, every day, for many years. Anyway, we all know the real issue is troll reproduction. This election season is going to be so jacked up with dog whistles, Jade will never sleep again. What? Yo, get ready for the top propaganda hits of the year. Alternia, brutal eugenics space dictatorship. Not untrue. Troll Homelord, Lord of the Flies nightmare scenario where kids murder each other just to get the chance to grow up and murder other aliens instead. Wasn't that bad. Actual names of professions on Alternia. Thresh-secutioner, Legis-lacerator, Minister of the sucking the eyeballs out of your fucking skull and then putting two monstrous H.R. Geiger sheer troll dicks up there and just mashing the shit out of your brain with them. You made that last one up. Also, it was disgusting. Grow the fuck up, you utterly contemptible potty-mouthed cunt. You know trolls don't actually have two dicks, Dave. That's an offensive stereotype. I know, that's the point. Keep up, guys. Ready for another one. Trolls literally ate babies. Only the defective ones. Like you, my dude. Yeah, so that's why our campaign can work. By the way, I'm going to be giving a long-form exam at the end of this to make sure you're retaining info, because this is only like the most important thing we've ever done collectively. Aside from creating the universe, I mean, it's not that it's important, Dave. It's that, like, the method you're using to communicate it is kind of inefficient and boring. You mean words? I mean your words specifically. We already understand the issues at play. You don't have to explain this to us over and over again like we're 12. Right, Karkat? Are you asking whether I've heard this exact speech almost word for word, including rehashed versions of both the colorful metaphors and jokes 10 or 20 times already? Because the answer would be yes, of course I fucking have. Karkat elbows Dave in the thigh, a move that is obviously meant to be an action of pure brotherly jest, but instead it comes off as affectionate and overly intimate. Jade's clever eyes don't miss this. Her pupils follow the motion of Karkat's arm, and then they follow the movement of Dave's mouth as he smiles at what he probably thinks is a totally neutral expression that reveals exactly 0% of his true feelings toward Karkat Vantis. In reality, his veneer is as thin and transparent as cellophane. He's the only person who can't see through it. Jade does some calculations in her head. Two kinds of calculations, in fact. Mathematical ones and personal ones. So, do you want a projection of her first year's hit on the economy down to the decimal with an 0.3% margin of error? Because that's a thing I can do if it'll make you stop talking about the stupid election for 10 minutes. Damn, hit me up, girl calculator. I don't think you're wrong about Jane's plans. She proceeds to dazzle the two boys with explanations on complex math utilizing taxation rates, GDP figures, and some damn thing called the Laffer curve, which she easily could have invented just to own them both. But the truth is, she cares too deeply for these boys to fabricate silly-sounding economic models on the spot, just to make them seem foolish in front of the camera later. The thing about Jade Harley is that she's not as good at personal things as she is at other things, like science or mastering frame motifs or kissing her, the last of which she has definitely put a lot of levels into over the past few years, because, well, what else are you supposed to do with the mortal godhood once you hit the age where dog hormones start kicking into overdrive? She rolls over and hitches up on her palms so she can stare her two friends down. Her high-prescription lenses make her eyes look anime huge. They might literally be glittering. She's so completely serious about the issue she's trying to stress. So now that all that's out of the way, it's time to get real, you two. That wasn't an invitation for you to make a pun about having all the time in the world or whatever it was you were going to say. Oh, I'm about to lay down some cold hard evidence, so pay attention. Oh, hang on, let me get a pen. Evidence about our relationship. Fuck! You let me live in your hive when I'm in town. I can't believe I'm pretty intimately entwined in both your lives, and you're talking about this? And you don't disengage from about 86.234% of my flirtations. Wait, why the fuck would you keep track of something like that? So, are we doing this or not? Doing what? Dating, dummy? Oh, that is a complicated topic in my culture that I'm not sure humans are equipped to talk about. Also, totally unrelated to the economy, which I'm not going to lie, is the only thing I want to talk about for, however long it takes this other conversation to stop happening. So say no! Well, I'm not just forcing this conversation for my sake, it's for you two as well. I mean, after all this time, have you two even kissed yet? Well, what? Why would we kiss? That's you. I mean, he's Dave, and I'm Carcat. Yes, he's Dave and you're Carcat, and everyone we know calls you that. Dave and Carcat. I can't remember the last time I ever heard any mention of you without the other. The two of you have basically been together since your days on the Meteor. It's so obvious. Together, yes, as friends. Yeah, very close friends. You understand and support each other on a deep and empathetic level that goes beyond hate or pity. You could even say that our relationship transcends quadrants. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Carcat, that totally sounds gay. It sounds totally kinda gay. You humans and your unfathomable gender-based quadrants. Jade face palms. She does it a little too hard and slams the bridge of her glasses into her forehead. Ow! Anyway, weren't you dating that Carapacian couple last time we checked? Jade drags her hand down the bottom half of her face and sighs. Yeah, for fun. I'm 23. Don't you think that's a little old to still be dating for fun? Wait, are you saying we aren't fun? When's the last time either of you left the house? Jade's eyes and crawls closer. She takes one of Carcat's hands in hers. I think we'd all work good together. In her other hand, she tries to grab Dave's wrist, but he flash steps to the other side of the couch. She pounces at him, and he keeps holding Carcat's increasingly sweaty palm. And I think we've been dancing around that for years now. I want to try dating for real. Have you ever considered, sorry if what I'm about to say totally blows your mind, dating a single person for more than half a sweep for reasons other than initiating the conspicuous exchange of fluids? Jade's grip on Carcat's hand gets a little too tight, but her big-toothed smile remains flawlessly pleasant. This is a common sort of exchange between them and could be easily considered flirtation on several different metrics, especially considering the history between them and the sheer level of black flirtation that Carcat accidentally indulged in during his insincere youth. He doesn't even pull his hand away. Okay, first of all, don't slut-shame me, fuck-ass. Second of all, that's what I'm trying to do here. Third of all, Carcat, aren't you from a culture where people are expected to engage in romantic relationships with up to like 5 people at a time? That's not the same thing at all. Oh yeah? Explain the fundamental epistemological differences. What the fuck? Okay, Jade, I think there's a flaw in your approach here, because you seem to think winning an argument on super clever logical grounds is going to get a couple dudes to break down and fling themselves at you in like a sexual way. Well, it usually does. Oh my fucking god. This earns Dave a look. A long, sad one that has Jade messing with her glasses again so she can peer right at him and apply more of that faulty personal math to his facial expression. Dave. What? Is this about Obama? What? No, Dave, are you in love with Obama? Jade, Jesus, where do you get this shit from? Is it about Jesus then? No, Jesus wasn't even real. I know he wasn't real. Wait, are you saying Obama was real? Yes, Obama was real. He was the president. All this time I thought Obama was like an aspirational fictional character you modeled your life after. I can't breathe. Like Snoop Dogg or Nicolas Cage. This is fucking incredible. They were both real too. I know you grew up on an isolated island in the middle of nowhere and everything, but you didn't have like access to the internet. Well, sorry, I wasted my whole childhood filling my head with pointless things like astrophysics and century numeral systems that allow me to do complex equations in my head. No, dude, that's kind of fucked up. Carcat, stop laughing. Jade's fucked up childhood isn't funny. Yes, it fucking is. Also, screw you for saying it's not funny. Like, why is it some sort of tragedy now how she was raised? Because she was raised alone by an animal? I was raised alone by an animal. Fuck off and let me enjoy this. Karkat has finally pulled his hand away so he can clutch his stomach. He's laughing so hard. Jade gets up and stalks over to where Dave is awkwardly cowering at the other end of the couch and snatches his tablet from him. There's a ripple in the room that makes it clear their god-tier powers have just clashed against each other. He shifts his arm through time and Jade warps the space around them so that she's the one holding the tablet. This is not the first time they've rearranged the fabric of reality for a petty reason like this. Karkat is permanently sworn off playing board games with them. The moment Jade brings up the paint program on the television, Karkat stops laughing. No! He tries to grab the tablet from her, but she's hovering well above the ground and he's simply not tall enough to reach. With a shit-eating grin and delicate care, Jade begins to draw a grid. I'll put this in terms Karkat will appreciate. Check it out. Jade, I swear to... Karkat jumps and tries to grab her skirt, but she swims through the air with ease, giggling as she doodles. You better not be drawing what I think you're drawing. Her artistic skill, even at the advanced age of 23, still leaves something to be desired, but it's pretty easy to produce recognizable characters of the three people in the room right now. She gives Karkat a pair of fuzzy, angry eyebrows and starts drawing other lines. Sinister lines with salacious meaning. It's exactly what Karkat fears, a shipping grid. Stop! Cease! Desist this moment! Do not draw one more line! Oh no, I'm drawing a line, Karkat. Better stop me before it goes all the way from my mouth to yours. Karkat catches the back of her shirt and she goes plummeting weightlessly to the floor, still laughing. Karkat tries to wrestle the pen out of her hand, but all he accomplishes is turning the red rom trajectory between her and Dave into a red rom loop-de-loop. See, me and Karkat have great black chemistry. It is not black chemistry, you horrid non-chitinous windbag. Jade and Karkat roll over for each other on the floor and he gets a mouthful of her hair for his trouble. Jade comes out on top and sits on his back, humming to herself as she crafts her grand design. And now that Dave's all chill, he'd make a great auspicious, she says, cheerful and oblivious. No. Because you and Karkat are kind of like Morals. No. And you and I, well, you know, it's always been pretty flirty, Jade. Except... Jade finishes drawing a shaky heart directly into the paint program. It's so big and bright on the TV that it fills the entire room with red light. Karkat raises his face and stares at it in utterly bereft horror. The sick light makes the bags under his eyes look like divots. In this model, troll quadrants are dumb, so we all kiss. I call this political arrangement fully automated luxury polyamorous space-time communism. No one reacts. Karkat is defeated completely. Dave has just crossed his arms and pressed his mouth into a thinner line than usual. Jade's ears can flatten and she huffs. It sounds a little like a dog whining. Oh, come on, that was a good one. It's politically relevant and everything. Jade, I'm not going to laugh at your made-up ship name for this imaginary threesome that's not happening. Jade rolls her eyes and tosses both the tablet and the pen over her shoulder. Dave flashes across the living room to catch his very expensive computing device in both arms. The pen bounces off his forehead. Jade dismounts from Karkat's poor, abused, terribly mortal spine and brushes down her skirt. Well, I've said what I wanted to say. It's up to you two what you want to do with it. I have to go talk to Roxy and Callie about the election anyway. Call me when you two figure it all out. Jade clicks her heels together to propel herself back into the air and actually winks at them before absconding through an open window. She has to push the thick curtains aside to do so. Karkat hisses when light spills all over his face. What Jade leaves in her wake is not quite the emotional scorched earth situation that she was going for, but a few of her needles have definitely got under some skin. Dave and Karkat both stare after her, silently caught in their own private rationalization spirals. Karkat needs to verbalize part of his out loud. Wow, what a crazy and totally improbable conversation we just had with our best friend Jade. Yeah. What a good thing for us that she's totally delusional, has no idea what she's talking about, huh? For sure. Dave offers Karkat a hand up from the floor. When their palms connect, there's a moment where something could happen, a little spark of potential. It would be so very easy for something to happen. Want to play some Troll Tony Hawk? Hell yeah. Again. A lot to unpack. You know. That scene needed to exist in both meat and candy to some extent. Well, okay. Shout out to Thin Mints. Oh, fuck, we're Vriska in this chapter? Be John again. It seems as if you're attempting to be John again, with the expectation that we might spend a little more quality time with him in his cubicle of misery and self-loathing. You guessed we might really start to unpack his depression issues, get to the bottom of all that. Well, nice try. John can't be here right now because he's stuck somewhere in the harrowing nexus between canon, post-canon, non-canon, outside canon, and fanon. Also, he can't be here right now because for the time being, we're done wasting our breath on such a sad loser. It's well overdue for the true hero of this tale to take center stage. Be Vriska. Lord English stands before you in all his time-eating, universe-ending glory. You rode in here like a total badass, and now you're presiding over a whole host of ghosts ready to throw themselves once more into the maw of this final battle. You know that this isn't your battle to win, but you are definitely the sign of the tide turning. Hell, you are the tide. This whole thing would have been pretty dismal if you hadn't shown up with the treasure chest containing the ultimate weapon, not to mention your flawless defeat of an obstructionist, hectoring orange man, who for reasons you cannot begin to comprehend seems to be obsessed with you. You've already executed what is probably the most important tactical maneuver ever performed by a hero of history in the history of heroism. You deployed the White House-shaped juju from the red chest. It grew to an enormous size, slammed down on what was passing for the floor in this esoteric battle environment, and a door materialized on its surface. You now stand off to the side, looking especially pleased with yourself, waiting for the legendary weapon to unload itself towards the hunking tyrant. You've now got two bitches of either gender at your side. Your main girl, Mina, who you stole from that embarrassing past version of yourself that you own so hard you bet she's probably still crying, and Tavros. Not just any random ghost copy of Tavros, of which there appear to be thousands. Your Tavros, specifically, who's been pathetically trailing you like a lost bark beast since you showed up. You'd be hard-pressed to describe what's happening right now. If they sent a poet, maybe he'd do a better job of it, but they sent someone who's actually useful instead, so you'll give it a shot. It looks to you like the complete obliteration of space and time, the end of all things, and the disintegration of literally thousands of ghosts. And no doubt your admirers out there would love it if you described it all in painstaking detail, but you're not an executionist. You just call it like you see it, and what you're seeing right now is pretty awesome. Observe Lord English. Kind of an overworked character design, you think to yourself. If someone showed you a drawing like this on their flarp sheet, you'd probably be obligated to immediately kick their ass. There's a lot going on, from his vein-popping muscles to his 8-ball eyes to his pirate leg and his ostentatiously bright gold pimp cane. Years ago, you brutally criticized Terezi for adding a dragon head staff to her Red Claire cosplay. The argument that ensued was so bad she didn't talk to you for an entire week. Now that you're seeing this, well, you wouldn't apologize to her, obviously, but in retrospect, maybe her accessorizing wasn't so bad. At least she understood the basics of having a simplified silhouette. I'm going back, Fim. You coming, Vriss? Of course, but give me a minute. I want to see. Mina gives you a grin and a salute and leaves you to it. This is what you always felt you were destined for, somehow. Standing at the end of the universe and seeing how it all goes down. Tavros is clinging to your arm like a little crybaby, while crying, you assume, and probably soiling his dumb little pair of shorts. But not you. You're fearless. Your eyes are so wide that it feels like you're eating all of the light through them. That's what you are, after all, the thief of light. You crane back your neck and watch Lord English put a crack in reality. It's beautiful. You thought maybe he'd do something stupid, like punch the sky with his gross throbbing muscle arm, but all it takes for him to shatter the roof of existence is a single ear-splitting roar. Around him, the ghost army scatters. Tavros flinches and hides his face in your shoulder, and probably pisses himself again for good measure. But you get smashed in the head? It was so fast and dark you didn't see it. the shard of space-time that split off from above and hurled towards you. Your body rocks back, whiplash fast, and you nearly keel over. You're still standing, though, and laughing. That's what you were doing when Lord English put a split in the fabric of reality. You were laughing, not crying. It doesn't hurt at all.
Vriska, are you okay? Shut up! I'm...
You stagger back and put a hand to the head wound. Your eyes spin, all 8 of them. It's not a big deal, though. It's just a scratch. It's fine. Your hand comes away, coated in thick blue. Your hair is soaked with it all the way down on one side. Why is broken space-time so sharp? Like splintered obsidian. Feels like it barely grazed you, and yet everything around you begins to spin. You're not sure if... You can't quite... A stream of blood begins to leak in under your glasses. Noise whirls around you. Lord English losing his shit. Ghosts shouting, moving, the broken glass sound of the ceiling of space splitting into hundreds of shards of potentiality. There's a hum beneath all of it. A deep, dark reverb. A black hole sucking everything into the dark maw of infinity. You wipe your bloody hand on the leg of your jeans and sneer with rage. You won't go down so easily. Tavros tries to steady you, but you slap his hand away.
Fuck off! Okay, it looks really kinda extremely bad, though. You're so intolerable! I need to... Tavros, go. Find Mina. Now, Tavros!
Tavros scurries off into the fray to find someone less worthless. You try to catch your bearings so that you won't miss a single instant of the battle, but you're distracted by something in the corner of your glasses. Your Trollian alert is blinking. There's a message from Terezi. How long has that been there? Hours? Days? You suddenly wonder if it's been years from her perspective, waiting for you to respond given how time moves differently out here. Were you too preoccupied with your incredible heroic exploits to notice? Focus, Circuit. This is no time for sentimental thoughts. You need to get a grip. Keep your head in the game. Keep both feet planted firmly. Whoops. Your feet slip. Without Tavros to keep you steady, you lose balance and begin drifting. You try again to regain your footing, but you realize you aren't in danger of falling over. That's not the problem. You can't seem to get your feet back on the floor. You feel light, like you're floating. You flail your legs, scraping the tips of your shoes against the floor, but it's no use. You understand what's happening. It's the black hole. It's starting to lift you up. You glance wild-eyed toward the glowing juju. Its 4 chambers and peaked roof are pulsing with the energy of raw imminence. This is it. This is everything you've been waiting for. Whatever it is, it's about to happen. Where's Mina? You desperately try to stabilize yourself, slow your ascent, anchor yourself back to the floor in some way, anyway. But there's nothing to grab onto. There's blood in your eyes and your depth perception's fucked. Your hand glows wide and your fingers close around empty spaces. You impotently reach toward the glowing symbol of everything you ever believed you were meant for. This can't be how it goes. As you continue to levitate, gaining speed in the direction towards the insatiable cosmic body, you can see your blood trailing behind you in wet cerulean blobs. The juju glows brighter. You need to see what happens next. You need to see. You're so frantic, grasping for purchase in the empty air that you aren't ready for it. Another black shard of space-time hurtling through the void. It collides with your chest, right at the place where your ribcage connects and sends you spiraling ever faster towards the deep, dark maw of infinity. A black hole is something not even a god-tier player can survive, you suspect. And even if one could, you highly doubt there'd be any way of clawing you out of its event horizon, black and irrelevance. Not this time. It's a fate worse than anything you can imagine. And as it truly sinks in what is happening to you, how this is ending for you, you finally lose all sense of composure. You flail, spin, and flip in helpless little circles like a bloody rag doll, and you begin to scream. John, emerge from the juju. The first thing you hear is a tiny scream getting sucked into oblivion. The voice is familiar, but not as familiar as the second thing you hear, which is a crack. It's not just a crack in your ears. This crack goes all the way down your spine. You don't tingle. You don't react to it because it's so familiar. Around you, a cacophony rises up like steam. Oh shit, it's really popping off out here. Dave's voice reminds you that your teammates have emerged from the house along with you. You survey the group. Everyone's accounted for. 3 confused, frightened teenagers. You can't see anything but big, bright smears all along the horizon. You fish the 2 halves of your broken glasses out of your pocket and hold them up to your face. The scene comes into focus. The eye of a storm, a black hole so massive it stretches as far as you can see. An army of ghosts swirling and screaming, whipping around you like leaves in the wind. And at the center of it all is Lord English, just like in your dream. You can feel it now. The moment reality yawns too wide and snaps in half. But back to Earthsea. I don't really like strawberries that much. Never did. Too sweet. Not the right kind of sweet. Maybe I'll crack this ginger ale here. I'm going to 25 this time. I just remembered. Let me check my phone. I'm sorry. See if any fuck shit has gone on. People are saying that they're available for the D&D campaign. That's good. About all I gotta work at. Or worry about. Jake yawns and knocks on the window to Jane's office again. For some reason, Jane has the shades pulled all the way shut. Around. So he's been hovering there for way too long in his best tie and his best pair of short shorts. There's a crowd gathered below, gaping at a rare in-person appearance of a globally famous butt. The sunset has turned the head offices of Crocker Corp into a shimmering glass monolith, a beacon, if you will, of the future, visible for miles in every direction. Jane probably likes to think about it that way, at least. Speaking of Jane, she pops her head out from between two strips of silk-lined Venetian blind to glower at Jake, who's hovering uselessly in the air. "Use the front door," she mouths at him, but he responds with his specialty, incomprehension. "I'm sorry, what?" The exasperated hand motion Jane tries next worked better. "Oh, the front door, of course." Jake flies down to the street so he can take the front entrance. He whistles a quaint little ditty to himself while he waits for the elevator to go up to the top floor. This time he knocks on the office door and Jane lets him in. Inside the office, it's dark and hazy. The whole place is candlelit, and Jane is reclining on her desk, sprawled out like a lounge singer on a grand piano. Specifically, a blue lounge singer on a blue piano, just like in one of the hideous velvet paintings Jake bought in New Prospect a few years ago. Like all of his impulsive purchases, the tacky thing is gathering dust in a pile somewhere in one of the hundreds of spare rooms in his mansion, which now primarily functions as a very expensive warehouse for his atrocious hoarding habits. And intimate knowledge of his hoarding habits, particularly the type of sultry cerulean content he's known to hoard, is exactly why Jane's wearing a blue dress with a very high hem. Jake's bow tie practically spins at the sight of it. He freezes on the spot, an animal in the predatorial headlights of this buxom blue businesswoman. "Come and have a glass of scotch with me, Jake. We have so much to discuss." Indeed." He crosses the office and shakily accepts the offered glass of ludicrously expensive fermented barley grain. He raises it to his nose and pretends to sample the scent. "Jane, I must say, this is a very striking ensemble. Oh, you like it? Why don't you, come and take a closer look?" She's really bad at this, she thinks, this being seduction. She's so bad at it, in fact, that Jake immediately recognizes her ruse for what it is. Laughing nervously, he sucks the whole glass of scotch into his mouth at one go, ice cubes and all, and then, because he actually can't stand the taste of scotch, immediately spits it back out, ice cubes and all, spraying Jane's brand new sexy dress with an ungentlemanly fountain of boozy spittle. Jane is lashed both by the scotch in her face and how quickly her plan has fallen apart. "Jake! But jabbers! Oh no, all over my new dress. Jane, I'm so sorry. Here, let me help you clean that giggle water off your kettle drums." No, you've done enough. Goodness. You've only been here 2 minutes and already... Why did I ever think? Jane, please, I insist. She tries to push him away, but Jake considers himself to be a gentleman. He helps her to the floor and shrugs off his dress coat so he can as if to wipe her down. She's staring at the ceiling like she hopes it'll split open and suck her into a supermassive black hole so she doesn't have to deal with anything that is going on right now. Some of Jake's scotchy slobber is on her glasses, which is not the place she was planning on having it tonight. I don't really like all the innuendo that's going on here. I really don't know about that one, Chief. Is this why you wanted to see me? To show off the, this proper bit of frock? Oh, of course not. I just wanted to talk about the economy. By Jove, the economy! Jane, my dear friend, please tell me all about the economy. Jake doesn't care about the economy, but he's an ardent supporter of changing the subject. Ah, well, it's doing quite well now, actually. I should hope so. But it might not continue to do so in the future, which you can guess is of great concern to me, being that I'm a pioneering entrepreneur. Well, frig, that's awful that you should do everything in your power, and you should do everything in your power to adequately explain this conundrum, which I admit I am not up to dick on. You... Jane laughs quite sincerely as he ruffles his jacket through her hair. Oh, Jake, you really have no idea what's going on, do you? Wait, is this about the election muck-up? Because Jane puts a finger to Jake's lip and shushes him. It's a very smooth move, a total recovery. He shushes, and she directs him to one of the couches that line her office. They stumble there, his jacket and his hands still wrapped around her shoulders. I'm sure you've had an earful about the election I should not be doing that twice. I'm sure you've had an earful about the election already. I apologize. You must understand that my mind is quite occupied by it now. But I've been doing an awful lot of thinking as of late. I see. About what? About everything, I suppose. About my life, about all of our lives, and the trajectory they've taken since we've helped to create this new universe. You must admit it's a lot to grasp, but I'm not certain we've all taken the time to truly contemplate our place in it. This is not really the kind of conversation you initiate if you're going to extract a sexual deal out of someone. It is, however, the kind of conversation you might have with a childhood friend who's become somewhat emotionally estranged from you, both so busy with their exciting careers and misuse of their godhood. Who are they now? The same Jake and Jane who had passed like particularly dysfunctional ships in the night a decade ago? Or is Jane wiser and Jake kinder? Are they better versions of themselves? Jane absently rubs the narrow strap of her dress between two fingers, vainly attempting to sort out her jumbled thoughts. That's an earful, Jane. I know, it can be a headful too, but I can't help but worry. Haven't we really just been drifting these last 7 years? Drifting both in the sense of failing to fulfill our personal potentials and in the sense of, well, drifting apart? Jane pulls a leg up beneath her, which slides her bare knee between Jake's. The couch dips a bit under their weight. I must admit, I never thought of it that way. I know, it's just that we're both so busy all the time. The years go by so fast, and I miss you. Jake blinks, his eyes wet and glossy beneath his spectacles. Ah, well, I suppose that means that I miss you too, Jane. The moment goes from calculated to genuine in an instant. Jake drops his coat and glides his hands down her bare arms so that he can hold her? Yeah, that's definitely what he's doing. Holding her, and not too gently either. Jane really is quite pretty, with the candlelight glittering across her spectacles, her hair damp, and her front teeth poking out from beneath her lip. She's so pretty that Jake can't stop himself from sliding a hand up to her neck and using his thumb to tip her face back so they're staring right at each other in the low light, close enough that Jane can probably smell his disgusting Scotch breath. That's my little Java update, thank you. She definitely does smell it, because her cute nose scrunches up and she laughs again, a very small, private noise, a noise just for him. So he kisses her. Very well, if he does think so himself. Very well, if he does think so himself. Dirk has given him quite a lot of uninvited but incisive criticism on his kissing over the years, so Jake wouldn't be surprised if he was considered the best kisser on the entire planet at this point. Jane breathes in, shocked for a moment, even more shocked when Jake hooks a hand around her waist and pushes her down. She makes a startled noise into his mouth. Then she throws her arms around his neck. It should be awkward, taboo at this point considering the history between them, but it all happens so easily. Jane undoing Jake's bow tie, Jake hooking his thumb under the hem of her dress and hiking it up another inch that it really cannot spare for decency's sake. There's nothing awkward about this moment, Jake thinks. Two old friends hot as the blazes giving in to passion? Who could accuse them of impropriety? Nobody worth their salt in his book. It all makes perfect sense, the inevitable consummation of a whirlwind romance fit for the big screen. Really, the only surprise is how long it took to happen. Jane's a beautiful lady, that's for sure. She's always been, but she's grown more ravishing as she's come into the full blossom of her womanhood. Smooth, silky skin, thick, dark lashes, full, feminine lips. Not to mention curves like the Dickens. It's all certainly conducive to activities of close phonological proximity to the phrase. Jane's baby soft palm, unmarred by the calluses of deft swordsmanship, slides down Jake's cheek and dips under the collar of his shirt. She caresses his clavicle and then tenderly trails her fingers up the side of his neck, steadying herself as she deepens their passionate kiss. Jane's touch is nothing like Dirk's. Dirk's palms are so rough that they sting, especially on skin that's thin and supple, like the column of the throat right over the jugular. He pulls away from Jane's lips and lifts her spectacles off her nose. It's a motion that feels practiced and familiar, despite how long ago he'd last had the precious chance. Those rare, intimate moments that Jake was allowed to slip off Dirk's shades and look upon his face, unobstructed, stand out more clearly in his mind than almost any other in his life. Jake swallows. He can't stop thinking about how Dirk kissed him last time they didn't hook up. Which is a thing that didn't happen, so how could Jake possibly be thinking about it? Is it just some sort of Pavlovian response that's making his heart race like this? He does his best to push the untimely thoughts away, but his fingers tremble as he sets Jane's glasses aside. Jane gazes back at him, cheeks flushed with desire, eyes dark and alluringly coy. All her features are round and soft, welcoming, soothing, the kind of face that makes you feel like you've come home. Dirk is the exact opposite. Long nose, thick eyebrows, pointed features, a man who seems built down to the very essence of his soul to be sharp, hard to approach, harder still to touch. But when looked at from the right angle, he's anime levels of handsome. Breathtakingly, choir of angels singingly, anime handsome. The sort of man you can't keep your hands off of no matter how jagged his edges. But his hair is so much softer than it looks. His heart, too. When a heart like that opens up to you, it opens up the whole world as well. A world of increased appreciation for combat, philosophy, life, love. Yelp! Jake yelps and rolls off the couch in such a panic that he almost takes Jane with him. She flies to her feet, startled, breathing fast, and readjusts her disheveled clothes. Jake, are you quite okay? I have to go now right now, sorry. Jake's already hovering 2 feet off the ground before Jane can say another word. He doubles back to the end of the office and grabs the bottle of near-untouched scotch before kicking open the latch to one of Jane's giant windows and letting himself out. He's got a lot of things to think about, apparently. What the ever-living fuck? Jane stands alone in her office, confused, horny, and kind of pissed. She slowly slips the strap of her dress back over her shoulder. Then she closes the window, sits in her CEO chair, and speed dials the number for her one-man kitchen cabinet. Yo, what up? This is Dirk, by the way. Not Jake, apparently. Wow, after going straight for the double entendre, huh? How much of that scotch did you have? I think a few drops of it made it to my mouth when Jake spewed his beverage directly into my face. Things went that badly, huh? This is so embarrassing. You know, I wouldn't have approached it this way if I wasn't absolutely certain its margin for error was virtually non-existent. I mean, it's Jake. Were you nice to him? Well, I told you, you can't be nice to Jake. Listen, Jane, I really don't have time to jam right now. Why don't you leave Jake to me? Jane squeezes her eyes shut and, very softly and quietly, bumps her head against the edge of her desk. Why do I feel as if we've had this exact conversation almost word for word before? Because we have, many times. Well, what do we do now? I'm afraid I've gone and made things worse. Like I said, let me work on it. I know what I'm doing. You always say that. I haven't been wrong yet. Jane, head still planted firmly on desk, laughs at that. There's a sardonic twist in Dirk's voice that intentionally recalls every time he's ever fucked up. But it satisfies Jane nevertheless. She knows that he won't fail her. Fine. Please call me later so that we may strategize. Also, because I could use some emotional support after what just happened. I might be caught up for a while. Why's that? Can't explain right now. Catch you on the flip side, Jane. Wait. Dirk doesn't wait. There's a shadow cast in his doorway that is much more important than the election. Rose is braced against the doorframe, one hand on her purse and the other on her waist. She has her head tipped just so, her pale hair falling across her face at an angle that bisects her perfectly neutral expression. Dirk sets down his phone and acknowledges her with a nod. Well, go on. Ginger ale. I really need a drink. I really need, Thin Mint. It's good. I don't know if it's exactly candy, but God, I am not gonna finish all this. Kind of don't want it that much. Strawberries, and do not really want those. Not really. It takes me like hours to drink a can of soda. Is ginger ale soda? It's a carbonated beverage, isn't it? Water, high fructose corn syrup, citric acid, sodium benzoate, natural flavors, caramel color. What? It's carbonated water. That's the first thing. Why did I not pick up on that? Okay. John, fight Lord English. All around you is pandemonium, a multichromatic cyclone of shrieks and clashing colors, as Mina's ghost army claws at the borders of paradox space. Wait, that is her army, right? It seems like it's been so long since you've thought about any of this. But you're pretty sure this is the army you, Mina, and Vriska and the other circuit were trying to raise. So it's true then. The Juju has finally unloaded you exactly where you need to be. Every screaming body pitches down and goes white the closer it gets to the black hole above you. And below, front and center, is Lord English himself. The big deal version, pimped up, hulked out, and throwing a huge universe-ending tantrum. Unlike his younger form, his eyes aren't flickering wildly. They're locked in place, an 8-ball at each socket. You briefly wonder what that means, but your curiosity is interrupted by a massive outburst of technicolor dragon breath coming from his mouth. The laser show tears its way through a squadron of ghosts led by... Is that Tavros? Seems like an awful choice to lead an army, but what do you know? Wasn't Vriska supposed to be leading charge? Where is she, anyway? Listen. You don't have time to dwell on Vriska. She's probably somewhere around here, biding her time, waiting to execute her master stroke and finish English off at just the right moment, like the cunning bitch she is. No, you can't think about that right now. You're becoming enraptured by the sounds surrounding you. Not a sound, but a sensation. A subharmonic symphony that you can only hear in your bones. This is it, the end of paradox space. The thing you saw in your anime dreams. A hard lump of air travels down your throat, but you... Don't hesitate. Behind you, the Juju disappears, sucked out of reality with a pop. You move your arms in a dumb little motion, sort of like jazz hands, and summon up a wisp of wind to keep your cracked glasses in place. You then pull one of your sickest hammers out of your strife deck. Your teen friends follow suit. You cast a glance behind your shoulder at them. They all look pretty cool. Rose knitting light around her with her quills of echidna, Dave with his sword of Khalid folk at the ready, trailing time distortions behind him that look, if you don't squint, like a lot like JPEG artifacts. Jade's got her favorite gun cocked and ready with her ears perked up. Let's do this! Don't get overconfident. We have to do it exactly like we discussed. First, but Rose doesn't get to finish what she was trying to say. Lord English's mouth roars open and a wave of energy blasts through your group. Rose is the only one caught in it. She dissolves in a slow motion. You can see the outline of her body in shadow, one arm thrown up over her eyes, shoulders pulled up defensively, cape billowing out behind her. She leaves an afterimage of shimmering light in her wake and then dissipates, drifting apart like a handful of salt tossed out to sea. You can almost hear the cosmic clock counting down, tick-tock, and a chime to accompany her fate. Heroic. Rose, no! Jade doesn't wait to fire. Space splinters open around her so loudly it drowns out the fire from her rifle. Lord English raises one of his giant fuck-off hands to deflect her anomaly-powered bullets, giving Dave an opportunity to attack. Dave raises his legendary blade and aims for the impressively beefy torso. It should be a sure hit, like slashing the side of an unusually broad green barn, but he whiffs completely. It's a wonder how a big man can move so fast. Jade inspects her rifle and tosses it aside. What is she doing? With all the powers of a witch at space at her command, combined with the infinite abilities of a first guardian, she's still messing around with basic firearms? She makes two tight fists and strikes a pose befitting of a warrior about to power the fuck up. She focuses and strains. A doggy snarl rips its way through her clenched teeth. A hazy aura envelops her, and space buckles and lenses about her form. And then? Nothing. No crackle of electricity, no licks of chartreuse flame. She searches within, realizes her power source is completely unavailable to her. Then she looks up. It dawns on her. That thing in the sky. That hungry black orb gobbling up everything in sight. That's where the green sun used to be. It's completely swallowed by a black hole. The realization's horrifying. She feels suddenly absolutely helpless. Jade opens her mouth to scream for help, but she's cut off. A razor-sharp fragment of reality slams into her back. It skewers her, exiting right through the center of the space symbol on her hoodie. She chokes and goes limp, encircled by a halo of her own blood. Get in there! You're barely a minute into the battle, and both your tactician and most powerful player are down. You summon a windstorm to momentarily keep Lord English preoccupied and try to grab your sister's wrist. Instead, you catch her by the hem of her skirt. Lord English struggles to emerge from the wind prison you just whipped up. You can see one of his arms flailing outside the circumference of your storm. Tavros has pulled himself up to his feet, recognizing English's temporary state of vulnerability, and directs the ghosts on his side to attack. No one is paying attention to him. Jade is floating away from you. You're having a hard time maintaining your whirlwind, your glasses, your hammer, and your grip on her. Lord English's head has emerged from the apex of your storm. He looks directly at you, and his mighty jaw creaks open slowly, well beyond the reasonable capacity of any mortal mandible hinge. You stare directly down the dark barrel of his throat, which readies another terrible laser shot. There's not much time to react. Make a decision. You let Jade go. She floats in literal slow motion, buoyed by the billows of her skirt. You summon a gust of wind and push her farther away from the battle. You're hit by a blowback from the current, and a line of her blood splashes across your face. But releasing her has created enough separation, just as you hoped. The laser breath passes between you, narrowly missing you both. You reel back like you've just been punched. Your control over the storm goes haywire for a second, long enough for Lord English to free his gaudy gold peg from it, and more catastrophically, for you to drop your already broken glasses. You whirl around and swing your hammer to bop his horrible deadly skull back into your storm, but you can't really see what's going on. You hear a gigantic crunch, then another, then another. It sounds like a cereal commercial is playing outside the periphery of your vision. Dave! What? Is Lord English eating my hammer? Yeah, dude, he totally is. What the fuck? It's a true outrage. This isn't going to work, waging battle without your glasses. Lord English has just eaten one of your sickest hammers due to your blind folly. You take a deep breath and dive down, right into the sea of ghosts. You land clumsily, palms first, and do an accidental handspring, and right into a bunch of alternate timeline trolls you don't recognize. Hey, guys, anyone see a pair of glasses down here? It's pretty important. Everybody shrugs. This gaggle of lost souls collectively personifies uselessness. It is inconceivable to you that a single one of them will survive this battle. Perhaps it's for the best. Behind you, the wind barrier tears open. Lord English explodes from his confinement and swings his peg leg through the army. Ghosts scatter like bowling pins, many of them flying into the cracks in space. Before the leg hits you, a troll leaps into action and blocks the blow. Her trident makes a satisfying ring off the round of the peg and sends it skidding backward. Whoa, that was a close one. Shell of a time to finally show up. Sorry, we were kind of busy. A bit of a weird question, but have you seen a pair of glasses down here? Are these what you're looking for? Tavros appears behind you and hands over your glasses, still in two pieces. You return them to your face so that you can take a quick assessment of the battlefield. Take a quick assessment of the battlefield. Oh, boy. Lord English, now free from your wind trap, is stomping around, throwing an even bigger shit fit than before. The black hole above him is getting bigger. You can see the ghosts at the edge of the battlefield tumbling through space toward it, distorted, screaming, and helpless, and Tavros suddenly is leading an admirable charge of about 6 ghosts to attack Lord English's flesh foot. You wince because you can see what's coming before it happens. It's a shame because you didn't have the chance to thank him for finding your glasses. English raises his knee and stomps 3 ghosts into oblivion. The other 4, Tavros included, get vaporized in a beam. The ghost army seems to be thinning out pretty badly now. Most of the ones remaining are either fleeting or getting sucked into a hole. You whip out another hammer. Classic this time. The wrinkle fucker. Its boinging pair of irons are hot, hissing, and ready for action. You use the wind to repel yourself back toward the fray. Dave is slicing paper cuts into English's torso with glancing nicks from his blade, but the monster's spry as ever, making him a difficult target. You take advantage of his distracted cavorting to whack him on the side of the skull. Your hammer connects with a satisfying crunch, and he stumbles back, but recovers and lunges forward in a motion so quick you can barely follow it. English grabs the wrinkle fucker with his mouth. You hold on tight, but he starts shaking his head rapidly the way a dog with a rabbit tries to break its neck. He chomps it down hard and shatters the hammer's head, gobbling down the broken pieces. You watch incredulously as the giant dude eats yet another of your favorite hammers. Unbelievable. He lunges for the handle in a ridiculously greedy attempt to finish what's left of your weapon. You recoil, careening out toward the black hole, but manage to stabilize yourself. You look at the handle of your tragically masticated wrinkle fucker, shrug, and toss it into the hole. Glancing back down toward your foe, you notice Mina still appears to be hanging on, clinging to his left suspender. Yo, hold on. Going for the krill. Dave takes a step back to provide some space for whatever killer move she's got up her sleeve. She raises her trident and jams it back into the back of Lord English's neck. English reacts as if he's been stung by a bee. He howls and rears up, throwing Mina off his back with a force that sends her hurtling out into space. You can't track her into the void with your eyes, she's flung so far and fast. You can only assume the worst. Glancing back down, you see English hasn't wasted any time after ridding himself of the irksome Harris. He has Dave pinned under his green big foot and is applying pressure. You've got to act fast. You flip out another hammer, you don't care which one, and send it flying toward the monster's face. English quickly whips his head in the direction of the sailing hammer and swallows it whole. You rush after it, reaching for another hammer without thinking. The brief distraction, aside from providing English with another tasty hammer snack, seems to have bought Dave just enough wiggle room to slip out from under the foot, regain his composure, and draw his sword. John, I need a little... Dave ducks a wide blow from English's swinging fist. He backs up nervously, holding his sword out in front of him with two shaking hands. Anything? I need a little anything right now. Literally any stupid fucking thing you can do. I'm on it. You pop your strife deck open and just spam the hell out of your remaining hammers. A few excellent hammers that cost you a fortune to make, and a bunch of shitty hammers you made as a joke, and everything in between. With another flick of your wrist, you spin them around so fast they perform an impenetrable barrier of pure, shitty hammer. Okay, the barrier is probably not the slightest bit impenetrable, but you've got to psych yourself up for this next attack somehow. In your hands is a weapon you haven't thought about in a long time. The Pop-O-Matic Vrillihu. It hums with both tricksy energy and the barely contained potential for mischief. You strike the baddest-ass pose possible to strike while wielding such a clownish-looking implement, and begin your advance. However, you're interrupted by a screaming voice out from behind you. It's a half-familiar, half-cat? Wait! I'm gonna do Dave's voice for it, because that one, first voice, did not go well. You whip your head around it just in time to see a bolt of orange and green energy racing by you like a bullet. It slams into Lord English and sends him stumbling. I'm back. Dave stands there with his sword absolutely agog, his expression perfectly reflecting a blend of horror and the total inability to process who or what he's looking at. Dude, I can't believe you don't recognize me. It's me, Dave Sprite, and also Nepeta. And now we're called Dave Peta Sprite Squared. We permanently merged forms, and now we worked out all our shit. Oh, well, that sounds fucked up, but okay. Dave Peta spreads their wings, sending waves of warm light through the battlefield. The light feels comforting somehow when it hits you. Behind them, Lord English is struggling to his feet again, roaring as he rolls from one side to the other like a kicked-over turtle. His muscles are so huge it's hard for him to maneuver. It would be hilarious if only all of reality weren't tearing apart at the seams around you. The sky shivers and shakes, raining needles of breached matter that burst and shatter at all angles, opening new voids where they land. Above the bedlam, Dave Peta is finishing up an inspiring speech. You realize you tuned out most of it due to the surrounding chaos. I know it looks awful right now, we can do it. In fact, we're literally the only ones that can do it. After all, it is our destiny. Well, that bit was pretty good, you guess. At least you caught the end, when presumably the most important and uplifting part. You and Dave exchange a look that silently says all that needs to be said right now. Dave Peta's right. You three are the only ones left, and there's no room for failure. Final round. The last leg of the fight proceeds like a well-oiled machine. Perhaps a well-oiled machine careening down a steep hill toward the edge of a cliff, but well-oiled nonetheless. You, Dave, and Dave Peta, that's what you call a team. And not because examining your surroundings, you three appear to be the last three living or dead beings left in existence, but damn it, you'll take it. You turn your hammers into an efficient spiral, a carousel of ass-kicking, and direct its fury right in Lord English's face. The butts of the hammers hit him over and over again like racking up points in a slot machine. Dave manages to carve a red line up Lord English's side, drawing real blood this time. The slash snaps one of his suspenders in half and must sever something else too, because the sword makes a gristly, meaty squelch when he pulls it out. Dave turns a half second too late to avoid getting sprayed by the wound. English howls and swipes at Dave. Not wasting any time, you bury a hammer in his gaping mouth. Unsurprisingly, it gets swallowed, so you throw another one. Now you're just throwing them into his fucking mouth like you're feeding him Scooby snacks. It's a gluttonous display you won't soon forget. You realize you seem to be stuck in a cycle and are in serious danger of running out of hammers. Dave, cat, sprite thing, help! Coming, bro. Dave Pettis scrapes their cool Wolverine claws up Lord English's back and then kicks him in the back of the head. You time it perfectly and complete the combo with a well-placed Vrilly undercut to his jaw. On the snapback, Lord English grabs the head of the hammer into his mouth. Oh, not again. You big ugly oaf. I really like this hammer. Maybe it's the sentiment attached to the hammer, or maybe you're just fed up with this gross pig treating your inventory full of hammers as an all-you-can-eat buffet, but the bullshit stops here, you think. Which is why you refuse to let the handle go when English wraps his tongue around it and unhinges his jaw with a sick, wet pop. You plant one foot under his nose and the other on his mandible and tug back. He makes a guttural sound at the back of his throat and sucks the Vrilly deeper in. Your heel slips on some drool and your whole leg skids straight into his mouth. You twist, off balance, and fail to catch yourself. You only let go of the hammer when you feel the walls of his throat constrict around your ankles. The pressure sucks you up up to the knees in one gulp. Brillyhoo's in your stomach, and now you're following it down there quicker than you can even process. Is this the end? No, you think this is an unfairly stupid fucking way to die. John! Dave Petta flashes behind you and hooks their arms under your shoulders. They yank you out, clearing your head from behind from the monster's jaw at least, but English rehinges his jaw and clamps down on your chest. Hard. Dave Petta reacts quickly, shoving their claws between his molars. You can hear them growling as they slowly twist their arm to pry the massive jaw open. You're not dead yet, but Lord English definitely got a big sharp tooth in you. Your vision reels and goes blurry, then patchy, then dark, then don't fucking die. You pass out for, well, you've no idea how long it was, but it was long enough for Dave Petta to get you out of Lord English's mouth. You can see their face floating above you. They're just a smudge of neon swimming in a sea of chaos. Wow, you almost got bored to death. Pause. Wow, you almost got bored to death. Like, for as much dramatic and, like, building speed as I've been doing throughout this entire thing, I gotta pause there. I can't allow that. Alright. We're ready to go back? What? I'm afraid to say that you look like total shit, my dude. You should stay here while we wind this bitch down. Put him out. It says promise. Me, you won't move. Meows? Oh, promise. Oh. Dave Petta holds up something to your face. Your glasses. They tuck them into the front pocket of your hoodie and pat you on the head before darting back through the air towards the battle. You're woozy and don't have enough energy to stop yourself from drifting. There's blood floating up around you, dilute and bubbly in the air like cooking oil in water. It's yours. Examine wound. You lift your chin and see it. Lord English's gold tooth cracked off at the base and embedded in your chest. It must be stuck between two of your ribs, you think, because it hurts like a bitch when you try to breathe. You keep your head up and watch the battle, but it's also indistinct and far away, playing out like a cool shadow theater on the wall. Dave finds his moment. He rams Khalid Folk into Lord English's chest all the way up to the hilt. It penetrates his flesh like nothing else has to this point. The wound around the blade sizzles slightly. The weapon, the unusual material it's made out of, is poison to English. He cries out in a crackled, broken staccato. It's an ear-splitting wail that cleaves the last of the furthest ring apart. Reality falls away from the mooring of the all-surrounding white light like a peeled eggshell. Dave's trying to get his sword free, but he's stuck. English's shriek morphs into a sinister, predatory rattle as his jaw creaks open. His mouth envelops Dave's head and snaps shut. He twists once, then twice, then again with a crack. A disaster of blood instantly coats his skull and upper torso. He swallows the disembodied head with a triumphant gulp. The limp torso goes spiraling lazily in the direction of the black hole. Dave Pett is yelling something indistinct. Or maybe they're just yelling at the top of their lungs. That's what you feel like doing right now, but you can't move. Your limbs feel like lead. You consult your strife deck, but you've got nothing left. No hammers, no nothing. It's up to Dave Petta, who appears to have plenty left, if not in the strife deck per se, then in the heart. During the beast's grisly moment of gloating over the younger Strider's death, Dave Petta stands 20 paces behind him, crouches low to the ground, wiggles their behind, and pounces. They cling to English's back, wrap their legs around his midriff, draw back their arms, and plunge their claws deep into the behemoth's armpits. Their gloved hands end up knuckle-deep in the upper serratus muscles on either side. Dave Petta then spreads their wings in an awe-inspiring display. An unwitting spectator viewing Lord English from the front might suspect the garish orange-green wings belong to English himself. Dave Petta then, with all their might, lifts Lord English into the air and flies toward the black hole, trailing ribbons of blood and neon. English resists fiercely, but they're both already locked into the gravity well, beyond any threshold of escape. He cannot do anything about it, no matter how much he screams and cries. This victory, this final sacrifice, has always been the destiny of Dave Petta, as they've sensed from the moment they've been created. And to die in this day, in this way, has always been the destiny of Lord English. The black hole, gaping, implacable, cosmic embodiment of the dead cherub, his long-departed sister, finally welcomes Lord English home. English and Dave Petta are sucked in with a subatomic whisper. The reunion sends shockwaves across the pitiful remains of paradox space. And then everything is wholly, utterly, and categorically silent. It's over. Lord English is dead. But it doesn't feel over somehow. You don't feel like you've won. You can barely feel anything at all, actually. All you can think about for now is Dave Petta, how they were so unfettered and brave, how they sacrificed themselves by flying right into the black hole like a fucking piece of garbage. You can almost hear Dave saying, "May God rest his soul." You collapse against whatever's passing for the floor at this moment of utterly null corporeal conditions surrounding you. It doesn't feel possible. You're not even sure you can trust your perception well enough to believe it, but it seems to be over. You're convinced of yourself, of this truth, well enough to allow yourself to exhale, enough to allow yourself to suddenly acknowledge the agony coursing through your body, emanating from the gold tooth lodged in your chest, enough to allow yourself to succumb to the overwhelming urge to sleep. Close your eyes. I was not expecting that to run on so long, but boy did it. And also, there's a number of things to be said about that, but I don't know if I can manage to say them at this point. You know. When I was a child, I wrote a novel. Rose is speaking with her eyes closed. She's weary, but standing for now near one of Dirk's work tables. She has both hands resting upon the chassis of his recent project, Sawtooth 3.1. The energy humming inside its mechanical heart warms her palms. Dirk snorts, but in a good-natured sort of way. That's the closest he usually gets to laughing. Another one of these Lalonde childhood wizard fics, I presume. He leans his elbow on the table and stares at her over the rims of his shades. The weight of Dirk's scrutiny is potent. She looks away. Complacency of the learned. Ah, the wizard fic, then. Yes, of course it was nothing like the polished masterpiece penned by the middle-aged version of myself from your world, nor did the saga span as many volumes. 13-year-old Rose only managed to draft the one, it shames me to say. How pathetic. I know. Rose steps back, trailing her fingers over the rivets that line Sawtooth 3.1's chest. Eyes closed again, she passes in front of the window. With the sunset behind her, she's a shadow ringed in a yellow light that turns white at the tips of her hair. Though I must say, in defense of young Rose's literary integrity, having carefully studied all volumes of the Elder's work and then revisiting my youthful preteen scribbles of passion,
I observed more power and emotion in this single ragged notebook than the full span of the best-selling series. It's more raw, betrays considerably more sincerity than my young self was ever aware of stitching into the prose. It meant something. She turns to look at him. For all its plainly evident amateurism as the literary product of a child, I've come to believe it's a much stronger work standing alone as a single volume. Its meaning and symbolism potently compressed, and its message shining through more nakedly, undisguised by the cleverness of a more seasoned writer. But the basics are the same as the series you've read. The plot concerns the machinations of 12 wizard children. They revolt against the complacency of the wise, kind wizards, and go on to become responsible for great evils. It isn't their intent to commit atrocities, or within their nature to do so originally. They become corrupted by an overabundance of knowledge, the kind never meant for the mortal mind to grasp. Yeah, this sounds pretty close to my recollection of it. There's a lot of footsteps going on upstairs, and I hope they're not being picked up by the microphone. It certainly wasn't the most fucked up thing I've ever written, but it was the most psychologically potent, the most personal, easily. But the personal aspects to it were all telegraphed through allegory and esoteric symbolism. I wrote it in what would best be described as a fevered haze, as if I were pulling inspiration from beyond myself, channeling the story rather than writing it. You could almost call the process. She runs a hand through her hair, fanning it into a halo that is suspended in the air for a moment, trailing spiderwebs of gold that dissolve into dust. She's smirking now, just a little. Enlightened. That sucked. Yes. It also sounds like it's the opposite of what was going on. It sounds more like you were trapped in a sort of dire creative fugue state, causing you to chart your own mental profile using metaphor revolving around murderous, omniscient children. Well, consider the playful pun rescinded. Apologies for diminishing your presence with my suboptimal health and the toll it's taken on my wordplay. Thanks. It's been very difficult for me. You've been a real trooper. Anyway, my point is I've long suspected my story was a pre-manifestation of my seer of light powers. I was seeing beyond my universe into another. My original thesis was that the children represented the 12 trolls who created our universe, but over the years I've come to see how malleable any apparent fact of numerological significance can be. Adaptable, actually. Adaptable to shifting circumstance, changes in settings, stakes, and allied ensembles. 12. That's how many players went through the door at the end of our game. Exactly. My friends and yours, as well as Kanaya, Karkat, Terezi, and Calliope. Dirk settles in the wall beside Rose, shoulder to shoulder. She seems to take some measure of comfort in the physical proximity. When she finds herself leaning against him, probably without thinking about it, Dirk imagines. Because neither of them really do that, he doesn't pull away. If it's her, it's alright. He won't begrudge her a small weakness now. I'm distracted by my dog running around upstairs. You describe this as a fact of numerological significance, which makes you suspect these correlations are something less than utterly providential, as if there's a part of you holding on to the belief that certain figures are coincidental, that their significance and repetition smacks of bullshit. Do they not smack of bullshit? They smack of a bunch of things, and a bunch of other things that also happen to smack of bullshit, but the network of relations isn't perfectly traceable, nor can they all be mapped onto it on a one-to-one basis. It's unclear exactly which things are smacking, just as it's unclear that when it comes to bullshit, whether or not smacking accurately describes what is being done per se. Rose looks up to Dirk with the ghost of a smile that she inherited from him. On her face, its blankness is as enigmatic as the Mona Lisa's. Could it be that it is you who's smacking of bullshit, dear father? Nah, I smack of many admirable qualities as well as keen insights. She doesn't seem to have another riposte to return, but her gaze lingers. She stares into her shades as if she's convinced she could see past them. Dirk allows their eyes to meet. All I'm saying is it's evidence of a grand design, an immortal metatextual apparatus beyond our ken that we can only catch glimpses of when we're proverbially shitting our brains out through our nose. Which both you and I know. Which only you and I know, apparently. Which is precisely my question. Her gaze drifts towards the ceiling. In my story, all 12 of the disciples fell victim to the vagaries of power. They were filled with the light of knowledge, and one by one they succumbed to it, turning insane or evil, or most often both. If this is the effect unchecked powers have on players living in a post-canon victory state, then why isn't it affecting any of our other friends? Well, I got a few theories. She shoots him a look. It's the kind of look Kanaya gives her sometimes. Only a few? I mean, some of us have stopped using our powers completely. Not a whole lot of need for emergency resurrections or complete timeline manipulation on a planet that's never had a conflict more serious than a sports ball riot or a rumbled hat shortage. But even aside from how often they're used, some powers don't lend themselves to the infinite expansion of one's mind the way ours do. I see. So what you're saying is it's more a matter of one's aspect than it is whether one's powers are practiced further or allowed to atrophy. Yep. In that case, Rose sways suddenly. In that case, perhaps Terezi had the right idea. Getting away from this place, I mean. Maybe I was a fool for imagining I could settle down here. She jerks away from the wall in a tortured ragdoll motion, one hand snapping out vainly for something to brace herself against. She staggers forward a bit. Dirk doesn't reach out to steady her. Anyone else might have had the emphatic reflex to do so. Maybe it says something about him that he lacks this reflex, and maybe it says something about Rose that she prefers it this way. Try she might to convince herself otherwise, though marriage vows and occasional banter about adoption with her wife, she's still a solitary creature. She gasps, sucks breath down her throat, and squeezes her eyes shut so hard that a tear rolls out. She slides back down the wall, sitting on the floor to save her energy. She's mostly composed when she raises her head. There's bitter laughter at the edge of her words. How are you handling this so well? I assumed it was just feigned Strider stoicism, but you seem to be taking this in stride. I won't lie, it's definitely making me feel pretty crazy. Dirk stands over her, adjusts his hair, crosses his arms. He makes no motion to bother joining her on the floor. He looks very together. He says the word crazy with the same intonation with which you might say good morning. It's hard to believe he means it at all. But I've got more practice at this than you do. I spent most of my life before the game multitasking my entire fucking subconscious. I've had several times my age on paper to contemplate these mysteries. Years of prying open can after can of worms filled with answers I don't like. Cut yourself on the edge more than once and you start getting surprised by all the blood. I see. Rose wraps her hands around her upper arms like there's a winter chill rattling through the workshop. She shivers. It's not the headaches that concern me the most. In fact, I don't think it's the expansion of my powers that is causing the headaches, but rather my own resistance to it. Sometimes I get this feeling that I could, if I really wanted to, just let go. It would be as easy as opening my eyes. It's like that feeling that you get when you're far enough out of the dream to be conscious of it, but not yet awake. I'm caught in the liminal space between reality and reverie, where people once believed demons dwelled. But the only reason a demon is still sitting on my chest is because I refuse to banish it. All it would take is looking directly at it. I'm forcing myself to stumble through my life as a sleepwalker. All this pain and sorrow could go away if I would just allow myself to wake up. Then why don't you? Because I'm not sure that person opening her eyes will be me. Her voice is lost at sea, swallowed by the swell of darkness lurking in her imagination. This time, Dirk does reach out to steady her. He kneels in front of her, curls a knuckle under her chin, and lifts her face up to his level. Then, in a deliberate motion, he pulls off his shades. I understand completely. Rose's eyelids flutter heavily. She meets the intensity of his naked gaze aloofly, like she's not aware this is the first time he's ever let her see it. Huh? I know I sound pretty nonchalant most of the time, but I'm actually scared shitless of myself. I've always had this uncanny ability to chart a course from A to Z and not give a fuck about any of the letters in between. I'm not sure anybody should be allowed to have that much foresight, especially a guy like me. What upsets me most, I think, is the distance this all is putting between me and everyone I know. The further above the board you fly, the harder it gets to care about the pieces. I hear you. And personally speaking, things usually work out for the best when all those pieces do exactly what I say. So I'm also probably not the kind of guy you should get to be right all the time. Rose laughs softly. She's not scared of this abyss she's staring into at all. She doesn't even think to look away. There's really not an inch of humility in you, is there? I've just spent a lot of time in my own head. Maybe absolute self-absorption is the inevitable outcome, when the self is all you've ever known, when you're drowning in it. I know there's plenty of things that suck about me. No point feigning humility about the things that don't. And yes, I may be a shitty human being, but As a mechanic, I'm off the fucking charts. Rose's eyes have grown distant, almost mirror-like. Dirk can see himself reflected in her vacant stare. All the pieces in their place, all the mechanisms running smoothly. She says this in a hollow tone. It's the disarming voice a puppeteer ventriloquizes for a marionette. Her head falls toward her shoulder slowly. Dirk catches her cheek as she slides into sleep. It's difficult for the untrained ear to spot the exact moment in the conversation where the words she is saying stopped being hers and started being his. Or maybe they were her words. Does it really matter? In many respects, they're basically the same person, aren't they? Kindred spirits in blood and perspective, the puppet masters of the respective games they like to believe they're playing. But you already knew that, right? None of my friends have noticed it yet, but you have. You have the ability to read between the lines, to understand that our lives are blighted by this undercurrent of subtext, of narrative significance. Anyone paying attention could have guessed by now who's really telling this story. You're not so innocent either. I've caught you leering at some pretty personal moments. Are you having fun just being a voyeur? Just violating the shit out of everyone's privacy? Are these teenage romantic entanglements panning out the way you wanted? They never do. Maybe it helps being able to see everyone's thoughts described in plain sight, broadcasting the internal conflicts, the compromises, the doubts. Does it make it easier for you to accept the emotional faltering, the missteps, the basic inability to reach out and seize the opportunity for happiness repeatedly dangled in their faces? Knowing their thoughts are transcribed by a third party, does it fill you with a sense of unease, of sickness, sensing that the observations made of their mental interiors may be tainted? Who the hell do I think I am, I hear you wondering. You know who I am, of course. The better question is, who do you think you are? What exactly is so special about you? Nothing, of course. I am specific. I have a name, an agenda, a vision. I'm a monolith of concentrated narrative authority, relaying events to you and swaying them as I see fit. Whereas you are pointedly nonspecific. You are the generalized, impotent witness to all this. You're essentially beholden to me as those whose lives I describe. I even have the ability to decide what you actually means. I can take the you-ness away from you and put it inside another passive mark, such as John Egbert. You didn't even notice when I did it, and you had no objections then. Why would you object now? So what makes John so special? The answer is something I'm sure you've suspected all along, but rather not face, which is probably nothing. He isn't special. He's quite ordinary, I assure you. Boring even, and getting less interesting by the minute as he's forced to confront his absolute lack of heroic purpose, except as a pawn to be manipulated by a fatalistic reality. But I'd also like to make it clear that he's not even remarkable in his unremarkableness. He's simply convenient for it. Anyone can be endowed with this you-ness if I think it achieves a certain goal. Even the objective is merely to demonstrate the gambit's potential, to reveal the effortlessness behind it, to make a show of who matters and who doesn't, and even if they do matter, for how long and for what purpose, is dictated solely by the allocation of this faculty. You-ness can be stripped from the lowly Egbert just as easily as it was given, and then bestowed upon the mighty circuit. But even then, only long enough to dismiss the vainglorious spotlight hog from the narrative forever. Good riddance. But I haven't revealed myself to you just to boast about the abilities arising from the gradual obliteration of the constraints of my consciousness. I've only taken a moment to answer a few questions, not ones I heard you ask, because again, you are non-specific, and therefore do not matter, but ones I imagined you asking. And by imagining those questions, they became less fake, and as such, demanded similarly non-fake answers. No, in truth, the time has come to make my presence known in order to start bringing my plans to fruition. It's time to get down to fucking business. John needs to wake up. You wake up. What? You open your eyes. Actually, you're not sure they're open. Maybe I should read this and, okay. Everything's intolerably bright, like it was inside the juju, but worse. Are you dead? Is your ghost dead? You spend a couple seconds filing through miserable worst-case scenarios, but then you see it, your own blood, floating around you in a nimbus of shitty taut bubbles. You reach out to touch one and it bursts around your finger. You process the true magnitude of what has happened. The furthest ring has been completely destroyed, and you're all alone. Everything hits you at once. The light, your memories of the battle, the untethered sensation of weightlessness. It's a hammer stroke that hits you in the center of the head. It splits like rivers through your gray matter. That pain and disorientation goes all the way down your throat. You double over and, well, you're vomiting everything up in your stomach. Rest assured, it's pretty gross, and I don't think anyone needs an explicit account of the way you're disgorging your entire gut in zero gravity, or the way it's coating your entire torso in puke for the long blue hood to your silly yellow slip-ons. You seriously need to get it together. You look like absolute shit right now, my man. In fact, you really should strongly consider issuing an apology for the mess you're making. I'm sorry. Who are you talking to, dude? No one's around for miles. Everyone's dead. Well, almost everyone. But certainly the vast majority of what qualifies as everyone in your current frame of reference, every single person and everything, nearly literally has just been sucked into that monstrous black hole up there, including every single fragment of black empty space that used to provide the canvas for this bleak continuum. And most of your friends, Rose, Dave, Absurd Cat Dave, and hundreds of ghosts who all valiantly contributed to a victory which you're only now beginning to question the functional necessity of. Functional necessity? That doesn't sound like how I would think. That's because it's not. What the fuck? You finally noticed. No, not me. You go back to ignoring the fact that I'm the voice in your head. You noticed how it hurts when you breathe. Suddenly you remember Lord English's tooth is still embedded in your chest. You panic, wrap your hands around the base, give it a little tug. It's excruciating. The tooth makes an awful grating sound as it grinds along one of your ribs. You gasp and you lose grip, biting the inside of your mouth so hard that you taste blood. Can't blame you for trying, but I wouldn't do that if I were you. Without someone to administer proper medical care, you'll bleed to death pretty much instantly. On the other hand, the tooth is poisoned, so you're pretty much fucked either way, and that's really all there is to say on the matter. Sigh. You sigh in painful resignation and wonder what to do next. English is dead, so you suppose you can go home, right? It's tempting. You consider zapping back to Earth C, being done with this nightmare for good, and never breathing a word of it to anyone ever again. But you can't yet, can you? Why not, you wonder? What's the harm? You're right, it probably would be a harmless decision in the grand scheme of things. Certainly the easiest thing to do. But what about your friends? You saw Rose and Dave die with your own eyes. You saw countless ghosts getting swallowed whole by a voracious singularity. How about Jade, though? Could she still be out there somewhere, injured, alone, and scared? And it's your fault, isn't it? It's all my fault. You decide that no matter how terrible you feel, you should look around first before you leave. You were the one who dragged her here. You owe her at least that much. Plus, there's someone else on your mind, isn't there? You proceed to wander for a long fucking time. Time passes differently here than it does for everyone else. Here, I'll simulate it for you. I just left to go take a piss. Then I microwaved myself a Hot Pocket. Then I came back. In the time it took me to do that, you spent hours drifting around the entire circumference of the black hole, thinking sad sack thoughts about the years of inaction that led you to this point, intermittently humming the Ghostbusters theme to yourself. You get so worked up about one of your GB freestyles that you almost miss it. There, 11 o'clock. Do you see it? It's that flying dot over there. Huh? You scramble to catch it before it drifts any closer to the event horizon. Got it. What the hell? It feels familiar, but you want to make sure you're not imagining it. A wallet. Your dad's wallet. You chew your lip and press your fingers into the soft leather. Space is an infinitely large expanse, and a wallet is a tiny, insignificant object. Sure, there could have been crazier coincidences in the course of this wacky adventure you've been playing for the past 10 years, but this one feels very precisely aimed at your heart. You take a deep breath, unfold the wallet, and open it. I know the orange is meant to be Dirk, but for some reason, it also reminds me that orange is the color of Andrew Hussey. Anyway, back to the B-plot. Right now, Jade should be wrapping up her political presentation to Roxy and Calliope, using a lot more graphs and far fewer words than Dave did roping her into the election. Her approach is definitely more heady, but it's also more accessible. Jade's got this disarming combo of head in the clouds flightiness and the kind of legit down-to-earth cred that can only be earned by having done something like cutting your own grandfather open and stuffing him full of polyurethane foam. So you see Jane's neoliberal austerity measures. Roxy groans upon hearing the phrase neoliberal austerity measures for no less than the third time in this presentation. As I outlined here in graph B2, and here in figure A6, and here in this very spooky drawing I dictated to Callie, great drawing by the way, will no doubt lead to a bunch of ugly societal backlashes, not just in economic terms, but on a number of other serious vertices that we've been lucky enough to avoid on New Earth so far. You don't say. I do say. The thing is, Jane is an establishment leader. She's looking at the things done the way our old universes did them. She's pretty convinced that she's going to be able to replicate the capitalist hierarchies that Earth had, but in a more responsible way. But none of that stuff actually worked. And you think Karkat can do better? I think it's worth it to give him a chance. He's a leader of the people, and he's experienced firsthand what happens when establishment goes too far, which I imagine you can sympathize with. Jade takes a deep breath, panting a little. Her graphs are floating around the living room in disarray. She spins them around her, gliding her hands through the air like a conductor before folding the pages together and shrinking them to pocket size. And that's my pitch. Roxy and Calliope exchange a look. I'm going to get us tea and snacks. Would you like some, Jade? Oh, yeah, sure. Any preferences? Pumpkin matcha if you have it. Of course, I'll be right back. Calliope excuses herself from the conversation and flees to the kitchen, seemingly making no attempt to disguise the fact that she is in fact fleeing. Jade deflates as she watches her go, sensing that her presentation wasn't the slam dunk she was hoping for. So, what do you think? Well, I gotta say, this has been hella convincing argument all in all, but I don't know if I can help you out. What? Why not? Roxy presses her lips together, then bounces her palms on her knees. Her gaze slides east, right out the window. She and Calliope live in a belfry above New Prospect. One end of their living room is an oriel window that looks out over a public park. The other disappears into an arcading hallway lit at the far end by a stained glass window that Calliope made herself. The corbels supporting it have windy abstract shapes carved into them. Windy. This room reminds Jade of her childhood home, except that it's bright and warm and not inhabited in all corners by corpses and ghosts. That's why she can't settle down. That's what keeps Jade Harley flitting from couch to couch, relationship to relationship. She can't stop thinking to herself that home means awfully close to rhyming with alone. Home is John, who doesn't call anymore. Home is when Rose and Kanaya welcome her from a cold night and help her set lyrics to her sick bass lines. Home is here, snorting at Roxy's irreverent method of storytelling and admiring Callie's art. Home is Dave and Karkat, especially Dave and Karkat. Jade knows that this election is important for a number of reasons, but let's not mistake her enthusiasm for some kind of humanistic altruism. Girl's got personal reasons for doing all this. Jade drifts down to sit cross-legged on the couch beside Roxy. She stares at her with a doggish expression, eyes wide, head lolling to the side, until she gets an answer. I just don't really care about politics that much, I guess. Roxy turns to face Jade again, smiling apologetically. Also, this election's all kinds of personal. I mean, if I came into your house and asked you to make some grand political whatever against your BFF, would you be all, oh yeah, totes sign me the fuck up. I'm always about sowing the discord among my childhood friends. Sigh. Let me guess. Dirk got to you first? Not even. I got no problem telling Dirk where to stick it. But Dirk's not the one running. You think he's not the one pulling the strings behind the scenes? Sure, but give Janie a little credit. She's got more moxie and ambition in her pinky than the rest of us all put together. She's been planning this for years, but she's, ruthless? Roxy frowns. Jade is being pretty unfair. Fragile! And she's gonna be Miss Perfect all the time for the billboards and press meetings, always wearing those power suits trying to look like a big bad bitch. You mean like the Condess? Wow, ouch. I'm not just imagining it though, right? You see it too. Not to dredge up something horrible from your history, but her whole image is just kind of like, woof. Is that what you guys think? You and Dave and Karkat? Well, yeah. Roxy leans forward and stares Jade down, like she's searching for something behind Jade's eyes. Jade unwittingly responds in kind, looking for meaning behind Roxy's gaze. But she comes up empty, and to be honest, so do I. In the spirit of the full disclosure, Roxy's the only one I haven't been able to crack. Her mind remains a total enigma to me, just as it always has. If I had to guess, it's her void powers that make her invisible, even to increasingly omniscient parties such as myself. For all intents and purposes, it's like her thoughts don't exist. She's the same person, as far as I can tell. She still wears her heart on her sleeve, but the bottom line remains. Roxy Lalonde is still utterly fucking inscrutable. Well, Jane's not perfect. Roxy shrugs and runs a hand through her hair, which has been recently cut shorter than usual. I don't know if she'll be a good president, but she's not Betty Crocker, and I love her and I don't want to hurt her feelings, and that's pretty much all there is to say on the matter. Calliope returns from the kitchen with 3 cups, a handmade teapot, and some candied cakes. Jade finally relents. Fine. I understand. Callie, what about you? Callie sets down the snacks, brushes Jade's shirt aside so she can sit down. She puts a claw to her mouth and makes a facial expression more complicated than you'd think a skull would be capable of. Oh, I'd rather stay uninvolved, thank you. I feel like interfering in both politics and a personal argument between my friends would be impolite, as well as kind of stressful, to be honest. Yeah, sorry, Callie, I probably shouldn't have put all that on you. Less apologizing, more snacking. Calliope claps her hands together. It's a bright noise. Her tone of voice is bright, too. All these years, and she still can't believe she has so many friends. She smiles at Jade, and Jade smiles back. The tea tastes great. The cakes are even better. Callie's an artist in everything she does. Wow, Callie, you're such an amazing hostess. Roxy, you're lucky to have her. Roxy giggles, awkwardly. She gives Jade a gentle jostle, an elbow to the ribs, and lowers her voice. Psst, not her, them. Oh. Jade tenses up and pales, turns a wide-eyed look to Calliope, who's still smiling politely. She realizes a bit too late the profoundly insensitive nature of her social misstep. Oh! She grabs one of Calliope's hands. Oh, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be, culturally insensitive. Have I been stupidly calling you a girl for years like a big fat dummy? Oh, no, I'm such an asshole. You're absolutely not an asshole. I didn't mind being called a girl. I still don't really mind. It's just not exactly accurate. But I did take comfort in being a girl for a very long time. This is something I've only recently decided. Yeah. Roxy pauses, even though the lilt of her voice makes the sentence sound unfinished. She stutters the next part out. Me too, actually. You? Oh yeah, we're both a they household now. Package deal thing. Things are non-binary as fuck around here. Wait, what? Really? Yep, well, I mean, it's probably a dumb and bad way to say it. Don't tell anyone I said it that way. But yeah, that's about what's going on. Roxy, seriously? Like I said, fucking inscrutable. I would have never guessed. Not that I spent much time contemplating issues related to gender. I'm pretty secure in my expression of masculinity, and you know what? Fuck this. I don't know anyone an explanation, any sort on this topic. I'm confident with who I am, what I am, my gender, as well as my understanding of the concept. You want my honest opinion? It's fucking fantastic. Good for both of them, I mean, but also both of them in a singular fashion, since each one can now be individually referred to by the conventionally plural word them. I'm ecstatic for this personal development they embraced, for the people they are, the lack of gender they identify with, the pronouns they prefer. I've got no problem with it whatsoever, and frankly, it's fucking insulting anyone would ever imagine otherwise. So, yeah, I'm going to allow it. Carry on. Wow, that felt good to say aloud, man. Hell of a way for it to come out. It's okay, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I know. But I am curious if you need to talk about it, I mean. Maybe. Callie and I have been talking about it a lot. Unpacking all this baggage with their alien stuff and my human stuff. And so I got to thinking, what even is gender? Right? Oh yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Jade looks at where her hands are folded in her lap, bites her lip. She's her own concerns about this, her own thoughts. Reasonable thoughts, I'd say, but I'll refrain from any further comment. I'm staying away from this subject from now on. So you're, not doing gender anymore? Yeah, I guess not. I mean, all that stuff was from our old universe. Why you didn't bring it here, right? Right. Calliope takes a tea cake between the two of her claws and eats it delicately, hyper-aware of the horrible gnashing and snapping her powerful jaw is capable of. My tea is about shit! Between two of their claws. They take a tea cake between two of their claws and eat it delicately. Sorry, my bad. Ideas about gender were entirely influenced by my time watching Earth. I suppose I only thought of myself as a girl because my brother took masculinity quite seriously. By which I mean he became very enthusiastic about all the things it supposedly meant to be a boy. Cherub existence is dichotomous, but not in the same way human biology is. I suppose our view of human culture indirectly influenced Alternio's development. which in turn affected yours, which is something I've had a lot of time to think about since we came here. It's also very circuitous and arbitrary. Yeah, exactly. Like, when you think about it, so much of what Earthsea thinks of what boys and girls should do comes straight from the imagination of a bunch of dumb teens, which is totally fucked. Sure. Jade nods quite thoughtfully. She'd be a doggy's fucking uncle if she wasn't gonna come across woke as hell about this. Truthfully, though, it was making sense to her. Eye-opening, really. Why hadn't anyone told her this was an option when she was younger? She probably would have loved being a they when she was a teen. I mean, what am I gonna do? Get married and pop out 100 babies? No? Exactly. I mean, once upon a time I thought about that, but I don't think it's what I really wanted. I just like the idea of me and Dirk making some smart-ass awesome kids together, because I like the idea of Dirk, and also literally no one else on the entire planet was alive at the time, but we had some babies without even being consulted about it, so whatever. Your kids are pretty cool. I know, right? Personally, I'm a big fan. And like that, Jade's smiling again. The storm clouds pass so quickly in her world, yet you almost wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong at all. Roxy and Calliope certainly didn't notice. But there's something wrong, and this time they will notice. Jade drops her tea. The cup hits the floor and shatters. Jade? She takes in a sharp breath. She's not feeling well suddenly. She's dizzy, feverish, seeing things beyond her field of vision. A blinding flash of light, a black perfect circle, burning a hole in her eyes. She tries to stand, but her knees wobble and knock together. Roxy shoots out of her seat and catches her before she hits the floor. Oh shit. Is she okay? I don't know. Get a cough in the kitchen. Get some water. Okay, I'll be right back. Roxy eases Jade onto the couch and checks her pulse. She doesn't look bad at all. Jade wears unconsciousness well, having spent the better part of her life napping. Roxy slaps her cheek slightly and says her name, begs her to wake up, but she can't hear her. Jade is somewhere else right now. Jade gasps awake and begins to spiral. Her body vibrates, sending waves of space distortion out in all directions. But there's nothing to absorb these distortions. No space, no nothing. She's floating in a void of pure overwhelming light. She feels it even before she feels the pain from the wound in her chest. The vast emptiness surrounding her, the absolute abyss once known as the furthest ring. For a moment she has the feeling that she's recalling something, images and sounds in her head that resemble memories. But the memories aren't hers exactly. They seem to be someone else's. They're an older version of Roxy, someone with a cheerful green skull for a head who was Roxy's girlfriend. Something about an election. No, this doesn't make sense at all. The memories are slipping away anyway. Quickly they dissolve and soon they're completely out of her mind's reach, like she's waking from a dream. Just like that, they're gone. All that's left are the memories belonging to her, with a dire predicament for which she must claim responsibility. Her friends, Lord English, this great nothingness, this savage wound in her chest, that black hole. She looks away from it, quickly, reflexively, the way you look away from a light source that's too bright. The hole causes the same kind of discomfort to behold. It's so dark it hurts, yet it calls her. Her hair spills around her like tentacles unfurling. She coils into a fetal position and runs her fingers along the edge of the shard in her chest. It sends pins and needles under her skin. It's pure negative potential. The absence of a future. The thing skewering her through right now is the space between breaths, between atoms. She tries to remove it, but she has a trouble getting a grip on it. It fails to behave like a solid piece of matter. It remains lodged within her stubbornly. It hurts, but she won't finish dying. Not just yet. She unfolds, blinking against the vast empty light around her. Her memories crease as she moves, filling her mind with the knowledge of the last few hours. She's 16, she thinks, and trying to orient herself. And she just fought Lord English after being plucked out of a doomed timeline. At least, if that's what you even call what she did fighting. But what was that dream? It's significant, she knows that much. Dave and Karkat? Why did they jump into her mind as a unit? Earth-Sea. What's Earth-Sea? Concepts collide, commingle. Two different understandings of her world knit into each other as easily as she takes her next breath. Urgency bleeds off her neural receptors, melts right out of her fingertips. She lets herself float, unmoored, carried along an ebb tide in space that only she can perceive. She wonders if anyone else survived. She wants to see John. She didn't notice the moment her gaze turned back toward the black hole, but now she couldn't look away if she tried. In slow, hazy spirals it beckons her. The longer she stares at it, the deeper she peers into the folds of infinite atrophy. The louder it gets. Loud? She only now notices that there is sound emanating from it, but not the kind physical ears can detect. The hole has a voice, one that becomes material the more expanding black sphere dominates her senses. Jade's wound throbs. She hears the voice fill up the dark space between her ribs. It's calling to her from the center of the death and of everything. She kicks off her ruby-red slippers and drifts ever closer. Come. What the fuck? Forget I said that. Jade leans into her accelerating descent. She listens for another command, but the hole is seemingly set all at will. She considers asking who's speaking, but her mouth stays shut, powerless against the forces transfixing her. Jade has no way of knowing who this voice belongs to. She has no context for the understanding of the true nature of this being, what role she's played in bringing about the end, and so how long she's been waiting for this. She has no idea, but I do. The dead cherub is making her move. We should get the fuck out of here. Let's see what Dave is up to, okay?
It's old Calliope.
Holy shit, that's disgusting.
Don't be a fucking xenophobe.
I'm not being a xenophobe. Karkat doesn't respond immediately. He shuffles to his feet to the edge of the outcropping they're standing on and stares down at the brood pit, where the mother grub of Earthsea is squelching out unfertilized jelly. Dude, you know I'm not a xenophobe. No answer. This silence makes Dave actually back up for 3 seconds and think about what the hell came out of his mouth. He's worried he might have said something wrong here, that he was being horribly insensitive inside a place that's probably a holy ground for the few Alternia-born trolls left alive. Maybe flippant xenophobia isn't the best look in front of your alien pseudo-boyfriend when it comes to jamming about the irreconcilable biological differences between your species. Dave could be handling this situation with a certain measure of restraint or grace, but he's got my genes, so he decides to handle it in a way different than that.
I mean, that's what this whole election thing's about. Having your back when it comes to this reproduction issue, well, that and the economy. Let's not lose total sight of the economy in this critical discussion, but I'm almost as passionate about this troll speciesism thing as I am about the economy, which you may or may not know is my #1 issue. My wheelhouse, could you say. But my other wheelhouse is, like, giving a fuck about your feelings and culture and shit.
Karkat still doesn't answer. He's staring really intently at the jelly.
Dude, hey, Karkat. Yo, Karkat, are you listening?
Hey, dipshit, shut up for a minute. I'm not ignoring you because I'm mad.
Then wasn't I...
I know that you perished like a delicate lilac bloom in the fucking desert if not showered with my verbal attention at all times, but I'm kind of witnessing the rebirth of my entire fucking species right here. You ever think this might be a monumental moment for me? That I might be awestruck at the pure majesty of this sight?
Dave comes to the edge of the outcropping, standing shoulder to shoulder with Karkat as he too observes the majesty of translucent goo birthed out of an alien asshole. Karkat's got a strange expression on his face, cast half in shadow and half in orange light. Dave winces as the grub's nasty slime chute sputters out a bunch of air bubbles. It's a gross gurgling fart that goes on basically forever.
Yeah, but it's totally disgusting, right?
I can't fucking believe you. What part of this is disgusting? Is the slow deflating of its distended abdomen the sound of dozens of segmented legs clacking against its exoskeleton? The unfertilized slurry being slowly squeezed from its ovipositional sphincter. Is that it? Is that disgusting to you, Dave?
Kind of.
You're right. It's horrible. To be completely honest, I would have gladly gone the rest of my wretched existence without ever seeing this.
It's like when you squish the toothpaste down in the middle. Only the tube is filled with fetus juice. I'm sorry, but I can hear you down there. Did you want to talk to me, or are you intent on performing an impromptu and very unfunny comedy act on my front step? Oh, hey, Kanaya. Dave grabs Karkat by the wrist of his oversized sweater, and they skid down the narrow walkway into the mouth of the crater. Kanaya steps out from beneath the canopy, where she was doing grub science, wiping her hands on a silk cloth. She's glowing. Her skin, I mean. Her mood can be politely described as pensive. Still, she smiles at the sight of old friends. What's shaking, sis? Must you always call me that?
Nah, but it does feel pretty rad to say. Like, wow, my sister-in-law's an alien. How cool's that? I love a awesome planet where everything's free to form xenophilic family units without fear of government interference or reprisal, which is totally a smooth segue into the topic at hand.
That wasn't smooth at all. In fact, I wouldn't think it would be possible for you to raise the subject we've come to talk about in a more ostentatiously awful and awkward way. Just because you did that stupid little...
Here, Karkat pauses to imitate a very common Davism that involves 2 hands and a double wrist swivel. It's an incredibly good imitation because he sees this particular bit of body language like 10 times a day.
Motion with your hands doesn't make it smooth.
No, see, the reason it's smooth is because I was the one who did it. I got inherent smoothness. It's a quality that transfers to everything I say and do. Also, that thing I do with my hands isn't stupid. It's cool.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and you do it like 10 times a day. What is it even supposed to be?
I'm dropping a beat. Like I'm using a turntable and scratching one song into the other, all smooth and shit.
Looks like you're trying to fold laundry you forgot to iron.
Dude, you have never once in your life ironed a shirt.
I'm familiar with the basic mechanics of your Earth customs, Dave.
Okay, ironing is definitely not Earth culture. I've seen Kanaya iron, like, a whole bunch of shirts. Yo, Kanaya, back me up here, sis. Kanaya regards them with a thin-lipped smile that is equal measures patronizing and fond. So is this about the election?
Ah, yes, you've already heard.
Kanaya holds up her phone. I do get the internet down here. I'm impressed that you managed to be seen in front of that many people without spontaneously bursting into flames.
Wow, thanks. Another vote of confidence from one of my dearest friends. This condescension is really rich coming from the person who decided her narcissistic obsession with being the one to hatch the mother grub was more important than not sending our planet with a stopgap system of reproduction that would cause systemic speciesism to ossify in society for 5,000 years.
Karkat, hey, this again?
Yes, this again? Fuck!
Karkat, buddy, remember the game plan here. We want to get Kanaya on our side, not alienate her completely. Karkat, I acknowledge there have been consequences to the decisions we made regarding the foundation of the society that were not foreseen or ideal, but I do not think it is productive to attribute these resultant troubles to a single decision or individual. It stands in the way of our efforts to address them. You know as well as I do that we must present a united front. Please do not misinterpret my tone. I have nothing but the utmost faith in you. Kanaya reaches out to put a hand on Karkat's head. He doesn't duck away in time, and she gives him an affectionate, matronly hair ruffle between his horns. She keeps her hand there and pulls him a step closer so she can speak softly to him. Her voice travels high in the empty cavern, but her tone is tender and private. Well, I know that it is difficult for you to take a direct compliment. In the past, I've put my faith in you when the threat to our survival has become immediate and literal. It's basically nothing to ask me to do it again now that the threat is far more. Kanaya pauses here, choosing her words more carefully than usual. She takes her hand off Karkat's head and puts 2 fingers to her lip. Karkat's eyes follow the motion, wide and bright as dollar coins. Existential is how I think I shall put it, if we're going to be polite. You're all up on the issues, then. Kanaya sighs and starts making her way around the edge of the brood pit. How could I not be when it concerns me so directly? She lifts up the hem of her skirt and jumps in. Dave is watching her, but Karkat's looking contemplatively at his entwined hands. Kanaya's right. It's almost excruciating for him to take a completely unironic compliment, especially face-to-face, like what she just said to him. I understand this about Karkat. It's one of the previous few things he and I have in common. We internalize and project this quality in very different ways, however, which is why I'm going to win. Jane has been here to speak with me recently, in fact. No fucking way. No fucking way. I'm supposed to be reading this like it's sarcastic, but I sort of failed both times, so I gotta move on. She was quite cordial as always. You know I do like Jane. In some regard she reminds me of a friend we had who sadly did not survive our time on the Meteor. She was unfailingly kind to everyone she met, and she also happened to be the heiress of the throne in a vast and bloody empire. And while she had a lot of opinions on reforms, she had already wrenched some of her power from our last empress in the traditional manner. Karkat finally looks up at the description of one of their many dead friends. Kanaya carefully steps between the puddles of brood jelly and approaches the mother grub. She rests an ear against the rise of its massive stomach, then taps the shell with 2 perfectly manicured fingernails. By which I mean that Jane is perfectly pleasant, and I believe that she only has the best of intentions, but I can't shake the feeling that deep inside her lurks the potential for despotism.
Okay, I get why you keep calling Jane a crypto-fascist, but fucking Fevery? She was harmless.
These things take time to gestate, Karkat. Damn. Power corrupts in small steps. Compromises, concessions, appeasements, and leaders follow the example set for them. Look at what Jane has modeled herself after already. I do believe it's important to consider precedent. When Kanaya is satisfied by whatever she hears churning inside the grotesque insides of the giant bug, she comes back up to the lip of the pit and hoists herself out. This is why I trust you, Karkat, because you listen to advice from below and beside you, not from above. And if Dave is with you, I trust you not to isolate yourself as you have in the past. Sweet. So we've got your endorsement then? She laughs, not kindly. Jane offered me a seat on the Board of Responsible Troll Reproduction.
What the fuck? How dare she?
That is exactly what I said. With more tact, of course. I do understand the trepidation considering what the history books teach about Alternia.
Oh, like human history is a fucking walk in the recreational sprawl. How hypocritical can she be?
Yes, in case you can't tell, I'm actually fucking furious about this.
She couldn't pick a more subtle word than responsible? She's not even trying to mask her xenophobia. It's like she has no fucking respect for us.
It is entirely thoughtless on her part. Our reproduction method is alien and unfamiliar. To a human it must sound monstrous, uncontrolled even.
Well, of course. When I hear about how human grubs chew their way out of the female mate sprit's abdominal hole before consuming the womb membrane, it makes me want to vomit. But you don't see me proposing fucking political policy based on that.
Dude, that's not how pregnancy works.
Dave, you might not have noticed, but we're not talking about humans right now.
Yes, Dave, check your privilege. Okay.
Anyway, we need to expose her bullshit immediately. I don't see how any troll can vote for her if they hear what she's planning.
I have a feeling that it would sway many non-trolls to our campaign as well. I hope that there is at least one principle we share on a planet, which is that we must all work to ensure equal dignity and respect for every species. Otherwise, what was this all for?
The three of them stare at the floor in adorably cartoonish synchronicity. What was this all for, indeed? That's a good question. Morality is a cultural construct. It's pure ego for any of them to believe that their personal interpretation of it will result in the most effective laws.
You know, that might be the magic ticket folks need to hear to wake up about this issue. Would you be willing to say that exactly, but like in front of a huge crowd, and also a television crew or 6?
Or maybe just in front of Jake English?
Oh dear, Jane has recruited Jake. That would be so disastrous. He's beloved in the Troll Kingdom for his perky ass. Seriously?
I told you it's not just me.
It has some terrible arcane power. I've never seen anything like it. Well, she doesn't have him yet, but Jane is one of his best friends, so we gotta approach this with a scorched earth policy. Give him a whole cadre of sob stories that'll make him feel all manly and heroic for lending his support. Just gift-wrapping babies for him to kiss.
Troll babies, even?
Sure, that can be part of the deal. He can kiss the first natural-born grub right on Scooey little head.
While giving double pistols and a wink to the camera, no doubt.
Bam. That's your re-election billboard right there.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Of course, but this definitely has potential. Have you spoken to Rose yet? No. I mean, she's... Dave mimes lying down and taking pills. This look Kanaya gives him is neither fun nor patronizing. What's up with that anyway? Are you guys, grub pregnant? Kanaya keeps staring.
Dave, what the fuck?
No. It's okay if you are, we won't tell. No.
Don't you dare drag me to this grave you're digging for yourself.
Come on, Karkat, don't you want to be an uncle to a little bundle of love and unnatural genetic tampering? No.
What even goes on inside your head that you just produce this endless gushing spate of atrocious word garbage every day?
Okay, stop freaking out. I'm just saying, from what I understand of troll reproduction, it would be technically possible for a troll and a human to... No. And with ectobiology, anything's possible.
Oh my god!
Whatever puts you on this unfathomable train of thought? I don't know, it's just unusual for Rose to brush me off for our annual ecto-sibling oversharing session. She's been sick for a while. Either she's pregnant or I got reasons to be worried. Kanaya turns and bites her lip. Her thin fingers clutch at the hem of her shirt. She starts flickering a little, like a light bulb in a heavy storm. The mood in here is all over the place. Dave, sensing how uncomfortable he's made everything, cranks up the irreverence in his tone. Whenever you put a foot in your mouth, shoving it all the way through your intestines and pulling it out your ass is a valid tactic, he seems to believe. I'd be cool with it, you know. Bring on the rosemary combo grubs. Rosemary. Like Rose plus your last name, which is Miriam or something, right? Miriam. Yeah, that. Ergo, Rosemary. I hate it. The Rosemary babies would have her hair and your horns or whatever. Like two cartoonish animals of different species give in to their lust and have preposterous children. Fucking adorbs. I'm going to call my wife and you're going to stop talking. Her thumb is anxiously tapping on her wife's name in her contacts list. She's walking briskly to the other side of the cave for privacy, pulling the curtain of her makeshift lab shut. At the other side of the cavern, Dave and Karkat bicker about what their combo kids would look like in the event they decided to stop being such laughable wusses and began fornicating like two cartoon animals of different species who have given in to their lust. And the day hell freezes over, maybe their kids could even play in the snow. Kanaya puts her phone to one ear and her hand to the other. Rose's line rings for a long time. It's unusual, she thinks. Rose rarely leaves her phone unattended. Personally, I don't think it's odd because I'm currently watching Rose lying unconscious on my workshop floor. But I'm guessing Kanaya is going to be pretty surprised when it's not her wife who picks up. She'll have to deal with it because I'm the one holding the phone and Rose is in absolutely no condition to be having a conversation with anyone, not even her cherished bride. Hey, sorry, but Rose can't come to the phone right now. Kanaya's voice turns sharp right away. Excuse me? She can sense that something's wrong. She's also smart enough and facile enough in handling questionable men to understand that she quickly needs to regulate the tone of her voice for diplomatic purposes. Dirk, is that you? I don't answer immediately. I'm distracted by something. She really should chill out anyway. I've got everything under control, not that she'll ever be able to fully appreciate this. Dirk, why are you with Rose? What is going on? I don't have time to explain right now. John's doing something vaguely important to the plot again. Kanaya, I don't have time to explain right now. John's doing something vaguely important to the plot again. Dirk, what? This is gonna have to wait. Dirk, I'm putting you on hold, okay? Dirk! You've been drifting so long that you've lost the ability to objectively judge time or depth or distance. It's getting hard to think about yourself as an objectively limited being. The boundaries of your skin begins to thin and disappear. What is it that makes an individual an individual? Is it the space we occupy? The electric sparks that sizzle through our brain and flesh? If your perception expands beyond the meat sack of your body, then you really are you really an individual anymore? Why shouldn't we have become gods? Why shouldn't we become one god? You scrunch up your nerdy face and furrow an eyebrow. It seems you aren't enjoying this train of thought.
Why am I even thinking this bullshit?
Sorry, dude. That's what's on my mind right now. I'm having a phenomenological debate in my third ear that's way more popping than your little hero's journey into the belly of a quarter-life crisis. It turns out you don't have time to worry about the voice inside your head because you hear one outside of it. At first, you don't think it's real. You think it must be an oral mirage. Then it calls you the fuck out. Yo, blue guy, get the shell down here. You whirl around upside down. You look up, then down. There she is. She's clinging to a random server beacon, looking a little worse for the wear, but still grinning. You float on down to greet her. Thank God. I was beginning to think no one else was alive. I'm not alive. Oh, right, sorry. I'm glad to see you is what I meant to say. Same, I fucking guess. She narrows her blank eyes. Her mouth twists into a frown. Not quite a concerned one, but close enough. You'll take it. I gotta say, damn boy, you look like shit. Yeah, I know. I suffered a mortal wound and then I threw up on myself. Other than that, I'm okay, though. What about Lord English? He bite the bullet or what? Yeah, he's pretty fucking dead. Well, there's that at least. There is definitely that at least. You both stare at each other for a pretty long time and let it sink in. It's a hell of a fact, no doubt. But aside from reaching verbal agreement on certain basic points of fact, you both realize you're pretty much out of material. You're kind of hoping you discover a survivor you could have an actual conversation with. Not that you aren't glad to see Mina, but you don't know her, and she's not who you're looking for. That reminds you. Hey, me fish? Christ. Me fish? No, I know that's not your name. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. It's Mina. Right, Mina. Have you by any chance seen Jade around? Who the fuck is Jade? This is, without a doubt, one of the worst conversations you've had in many, many years. And you aren't just thinking that because I'm telling it you are. Well, she's... I don't know. I mean, really? You don't know Jade? Why the fuck you suppose I'm tight with some random ass hoe? Jade's like a big deal? I thought you were kind of important too. You don't even know my name, dog. Ah. You've never been accused of having stellar people reading skills, but even you can tell the look on her face says it all right now.
Wait a minute. Do you even know my name?
This is a true A street, you know. Nah.
Now what? So you don't know it?
Like, joke something.
No, it's John. Joke is my biological Jake. Jake is his name. Damn it.
Halfway through this exchange, Mina pulls out a small clamshell-shaped accessory kit and begins to file her nails. She almost dislocates her jaw by yawning the moment you mention Jake.
All right, we're veering off course. Jade is my sister. I think she's still out here somewhere. Have you seen her?
Nah, man. Your entire body deflates. This is going nowhere. Turns out me-fish is fucking useless. You decide to do her, as well as yourself, the favor of completely ruling out the possibility of eliciting any valuable information from this person. You exhale and just let some stuff off your chest.
Man, I just didn't expect everything to go to shit so fast.
That's the way shit always goes.
Yeah, I guess. So, never mind, Jade. Have you seen any other survivors? Like, anyone at all?
Nope. I ain't moved from this floating hunger trunk looking piece of shit since I got my base kicked.
Well, Bass, you're the first one I've seen, too.
Oh. There's another awkward silence. You spend most of it looking at your feet until something occurs to you.
So what's your plan now?
Plan?
Yeah. You just gonna hang around here in the middle of nowhere, doing nothing forever?
That's what ghosts is most good at, ain't they?
You don't have to stay here. I can take you back with me to my planet. I mean, after we're done looking for more survivors.
Mina stares at you for an uncomfortably long time. She looks you up and down like she's making certain calculations. On one hand, spending infinity clinging to a fridge-like space computer circling a black hole sounds like a drag. On the other hand, will her coolness and street cred be able to survive any prolonged association with this blue dumb nerd? That's what she could be thinking, you think. You hope not, though, because if it was true, it would hurt your self-esteem. She finally appears to make up her mind.
Nah. Why not?
Okay, for one thing, genius, I'm dead. I won't even last on your planet. I'll just, fade away or some shit. I don't know what happens to ghosts in real planes, actually, but I'm gonna guess it goes something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops, I forgot. Anyway, while you were floating there, I came up with my own plan.
What is it?
Come here. I'm gonna whisper it to you. Okay. You lean in rather credulously and bring your ear toward her cupped hand. Nerd. You pull back, unamused by the prank. What is this, you think? Fucking amateur hour? Real cute you want to be my blue savior boy, but the fact is you already helped me out. Got everything I need from you. See you around, sucker? She's laughing her ass off. Before you can realize, she jams the button down on the beacon and opens the server. She jumps into the hatch and the door snaps behind her. Oh, shit. I think I know what just happened. You might want to check your pockets. Wait a minute. You fruitlessly fumble around in your front hoodie pocket.
Wait a fucking minute.
Sure enough, it's missing. The ring of life you stole back from RNA has been re-stolen. Bitch just picked your pocket. You got played, man.
Fuck!
Why are you going with Rose? What is going on? Why would you think something's going on? By which I mean, why would you automatically assume what's going on has a sinister overtone? Did I just say that... Did I say that I suspected something sinister was going on? Not with your words, no. But in the grand scheme of things, isn't something always going on? Why would you even ask what is going on if you didn't assume that the thing going on was both abnormal and untoward? What does untoward mean? You keep using that word, but I don't know what it means. I should put these grapes in the fridge. They're gonna get warm and gross. Kinda don't want them that much either. But I might want them later, so there's that. Well, now I definitely think that something sinister is going on because you're obviously trying to distract me with semantics. A tactic I'm sure you're familiar with. Excuse me? I'm just making an observation. You know your wife pretty well. You know all of her tricks, all her little personality quirks. You're confident that you know everything about her, but for some reason you have no idea where she is right now. What are you getting at? Nothing, just making sure we both have a clear view of the situation, laying out the playing field, as it were. Okay, I'm going to give you another chance. Why don't we start this conversation over again and you can say the correct thing this time? Sure. Hello, excuse me, but I would like to speak with my wife Rose, whose phone I do believe I am calling, as even these primitive human smartphones have acceptably accurate caller ID technology. Sorry, Rose can't come to the phone right now. She's otherwise preoccupied. Where is she? She's at my place. I'm sorry, what? Rose is extremely ill and should not be leaving the house alone. What is she doing at your place? Chillaxing, whilst we discuss the inevitable heat death of the universe and the unknowable solitary nature of human consciousness. I see. If she is capable of such abstract polemics, then why is it that she cannot speak with me? That's a damn good question. One that will undoubtedly benefit from further exploration over the course of the next abstract polemic I have with her. Yes, I admit, I'm just fucking with her at this point. But can you blame me when she's making it so easy? Kanaya loves Rose, but sometimes love just isn't enough. Sometimes what you need is understanding. You are testing my patience sorely, Dirk. Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at that. Just ask my fans. I'm not making a joke. Me neither. I don't really do jokes. Neither do I. I do often make statements which hold varying degrees of irony, acerbic wit, or dry expressions of amusement. Yes, that roughly describes many of the remarks I make as well. I knew you'd understand. However, my commiseration on this matter should not be mistaken for a gesture of friendship or camaraderie at this moment. Then it seems we're at an impasse. It won't be an impasse for very long. I'm coming over immediately to retrieve my wife. If that's what you want. Tell her I'm on my way. Sure, I'll get right on that. I hang up on her. Rose looks up from where she's suffering on the floor. The shadows around her are growing. She stares at me with glassy eyes. Is everything okay? Yeah, just a telemarketer. You know how those care patients can be when they want to sell you some chest shit. Impossible to get them off the phone. The server Mina fled through is a distant speck now. You look back and can't even see it anymore. In fact, you're not even sure you're looking in the right direction. You're utterly adrift, continuing your lazy orbit around the black hole. The only thing you are sure of is the fact that your ring of life is freshly pilfered from your not-so-fresh-looking hoodie. Doesn't really bother you, though. It's not like you had any plans for it. Taking it from Arnea was like a bonus as far as you're concerned. Extra life ring? Nice. Maybe it'll come in handy someday. Scratch that now. The young Countess has it, and is probably hatching bold new plans as we speak. Not that those plans will ever have anything to do with you. Hours and hours slip by. Your eyes start to hurt, and the wound in your chest starts feeling numb. It's a disconcerting combination of sensations. After a while, you think about tending to your wound. There must be something in your dad's wallet that you could use to bandage the gash. You eye the wallet and try to imagine what could possibly be inside it that would be of any use on a medical basis. A straight razor? You'd probably fuck yourself up even more if you tried to perform surgery. You notice that you can't seem to make yourself care about healing yourself long enough to continue entertaining ways to MacGyver your body back to health using nothing but the contents of a wallet belonging to a middle-aged shaving-obsessed pipe enthusiast. You put the wallet back in your pocket. A glint of red catches your eye just ahead. Then it's gone. No, there it is again. Another glint. It's flickering or sparking in some way. What is that? You drift towards it without urgency, worried that it's exactly what you think it might be. You get close enough to confirm. 2 small red slippers coated in tiny gemstones. Jade's empty shoes are a depressing sight, but you feel a sense of duty to retrieve them. Might as well. You secure them in your wallet, along with whatever other junk is in there. Your wound is starting to throb again. You can hear the blood in your ears. The rush of your pulse is so loud that it almost sounds like the engine of a rocket sputtering to a stop. Wait. It sounds exactly like the engine of a rocket sputtering to a stop. It can't be. It's impossible, you think, but why would it be impossible? Isn't this what you were here looking for, even if you couldn't admit it to yourself? What's the point in denying it now? You turn around. There she is, with her flaming red rocket wings. She hovers in place, not looking a whole lot different from when you last saw her years ago. Her arms are crossed over her chest, making knife-like angles where her elbows jut out. She's giving you a look of absolute disregard. It's an expression of exasperation so performative and habitual, it sends bolts of aching nostalgia and fondness through your heart. Dumbly, you raise your hand and give her a dorky little wave. It does not adequately communicate whatever it is you're feeling right now. But then, nothing would, you suppose. She waves back, but hearing her voice is what makes it real.
Hey, loser.
Customarily, we speak in favorable terms about getting to know each other as people. Humans, I mean. I doubt trolls are fixated on this concept as the one that's widely understood to have preconceived merit. The more we learn about each other, the more barriers between us fall and the closer we become. And since birth, this idea is stationed in the part of each human mind that is perfectly immune to the dangers of the challenge or scrutiny. To grow closer, to know each other, is what it means to embrace our mutual humanity, what it means to be truly vulnerable. What it means to realize an intimacy implied as a form of divine birthright, and to question this in any way is to succumb to dysfunction, to pathological insularity, to sociological sin. Is it to renounce humanity itself? Is it not? Yo, hold on a sec. This shit is dynamite, I promise. Gotta take care of something. By the way, this is page 25. According to Machete Order, you should start reading Candy after this page, but it is actually somewhere in the middle of this page that Machete Order breaks off, and apparently it's fairly obvious, so I will stop the part there. Rose's phone is ringing, and I know I'm in for an encore of my last dead-end conversation with Kanaya, so I block her number. I'd like to be able to attend to Rose in peace. It's only cordial for me to give the greater percentage of my attention to someone I actually invited over. The nagging wife can hold her horses. Rose isn't speaking to me directly. She's been relocated to somewhere in the workshop a little more comfortable than the fucking floor. There's a serviceable couch along the far wall, placed there for visitors but never once used for that purpose until now. I cleaned off the spare parts and circuit boards that were piled up there and laid her down in the reclined position she's in now. Her head is in her hands again, hair falling over her shoulders. Her face is entirely hidden from me. Her shadow is faded to the light behind her, assuming the shape of a rose-like apparition. I nod to her, and she continues. When she speaks, it's almost as if the apparition is doing the talking. But is it really a good idea to know a person? Know them inside and out so thoroughly that no secrets remain? If two people were to know each other in such a complete way, what remains of their individuality? If you're going there, we might as well start at the bottom and define what an individual even is. Oh, dear God. I place my hand on my chin and broadcast, with the appearance of being deeply pensive about philosophy all of a sudden. She gulps hard, broadcasting her grand realization that if I have indeed become serious as shit about this. Literally any kind of intellectual pablum could pour out my mouth at any second, and she's not prepared. For all she knows, I'm about to start quoting Kierkegaard. Please don't start quoting Kierkegaard. You've never even read Kierkegaard, have you? Like you have? Hey, where I come from, Wikipedia is a venerated literary resource, so if I told you I boned the hell up on his pages, you gotta believe me. That's not meant as like a punchline or anything. I'm a really, really well-read dude. I need water. But there are only two human beings alive where you come from. Who exactly were the academic cognoscenti of your era to determine which sources were deemed respectable? That would be me, obviously. Okay. I suppose you're going to tell me you haven't read enough Wikipedia articles on loads of scholarly shit to fancy yourself an elite academic by 25th century standards as well. No, I guess I have. I'd be one of the top intellectuals by that measure, a measure set by, I guess, literally one solitary self-absorbed teen boy for the express purpose of making himself feel clever. Absolutely correct. Pretty outstanding when you think about it, that... What? That apparently in any given era the standard for depth of intellectual mastery is inversely proportional to the depth of the ocean. Really makes you think. Does it? No. It's one hell of an observation, regardless. Considering we firmly established the fact that we've both read the entire Wikipedia page on self-determinism, like possibly more than once even. Let's have a totally amateur debate on philosophy. Hit me up with the classics. I'll go first. God is dead. That's a good one. Careful where you say that. You could really ruffle some feathers out there. I'm not a fucking idiot. I keep my potent rhetorical weapons of pure logic safely holstered at all times. You go. I think therefore I am. Solid. Check it out, though. The Hegelian dialectic on history. Holy shit. I'm not sure I can keep up with this. You know when You know when Descartes said, I think, I'm? How about subjectivity is truth? Wrong, but valid. Try this on for fucking size. Late 19th century existential phenomenology presupposes that free will is a thing. I don't think I bookmarked that page. Can't back you up there. But what if there's no free will? You didn't put that in quotes. Is that a hackneyed reference, or are you actually riffing now? I'm riffing. I see. Asking the hard questions. It's about time someone had the balls to. Yeah, I've always been underappreciated for my brutal intellectual honesty, even when I was living alone in the middle of the ocean, if you can believe it. I think free will's a thing, sure. Are you sure about that? Haven't we spent the entire day having a feelings jam on how none of us got here by accident? Our lives were meticulously planned from cloneception up to this very post-canon moment we find ourselves riffing about the very free will we probably don't even have. Don't you think it's all a little too convenient? This seriously is just a conversation between two stoned people right now. The bad kind, where neither one even gets to be high. Seriously, Rose, do you think you have free will? Stand up. She tries to stand up, but I haven't narratively allowed it yet. Her hands don't even move. She tenses, then relaxes to the couch again, giving up on the attempt. She attributes it to exhaustion, an all-encompassing sense of weakness due to her condition. Of course, she has been weakened by her condition, thus she suspects nothing. Never mind. You shouldn't be moving around much in your condition, remember? I'll sit. I sit beside her and cross my legs casually. It's all done in one fluid motion in a way that serves as a seamless transition between the points I'm making, like a magician asking the volunteer to hold his handkerchief as he continues his verbal misdirection uninterrupted. It's done deftly enough that she doesn't notice how close I end up sitting to her. To be honest, I don't notice myself until I've done it. I continue speaking, and she remains rapt. But even now, I can't help but wonder where I'm going with this. Logically speaking, individuality is a collection of processes and properties, interrelations of matter and experiences all bundled together. Your experience and processes don't want to be bundled together anymore. A moment goes by and she's quiet, perhaps puzzling over what I said. Then I remember I haven't narratively permitted a response. I'm forgetting myself, like a fool, distracted by the surprise my own actions have caused me. I resolve to stay focused, remain in control. I let her speak. I don't understand. You do, though. We've been talking about it, but using different concepts. Your ultimate self, that which is revealed when the mind's partitions are stripped away, and all potentiality of who you are and what you could be flow together. Could have been flow together. Those are the experiences and processes that are refusing to stay bundled. That's what your body can't endure. The unbundling itself is your mind coming apart. Because you're not as strong as me. Not yet. But you can be. I'm working on that. But for now, I'm focused on stabilizing you with my own expanding consciousness. It's enveloping you now, in a way you can't see. Keeping your thoughts solid, keeping your identity anchored to your physical form as it strains to hold itself together. You can't see it, what I'm talking about, but I can help you. I can help you see what I see, if only for a little while. All you have to do is open your eyes. Maybe what you see will help you through this. Is that what you'd like? Rose? Her eyes are shut, her look of concentration speaking to the migraine she must be fighting right now. Small beads of sweat appear on her forehead. She won't respond, and not because I haven't allowed it. Rose, stop being a fucking martyr and open your eyes. Rose opens her eyes, not her physical eyes. She opens the others easily, internally, beholding a field of perception somewhere else entirely. There you see all I want her to see. That which quietly desires to be seen. She loses track of my voice, which begins to mingle with these words. I offer her my hand, my physical hand. Without opening her physical eyes, she lifts her hand from her lap and places it in mine. I put my other hand on top of hers and wait as she drifts beyond the torments of her unbundling mind. My words feel like her own intimate thoughts and my voice distant in the room at the same time. Open your eyes wider. What do you see? We're not in my workshop anymore. Physically, yes, we're still here, but on a higher textual plane, we've pulled back from that, from Earthsea itself. Rose takes a shuddering breath and runs a pair of invisible hands afforded by her new sight over the narrative whole cloth. It begins smoothing out the wrinkles. I see John doing exactly what you told him to do, like a good boy. What's there to be upset about? You knew this was how it was supposed to go down. He could have made another choice. Then where would we be? Who knows? No, that wasn't a rhetorical question. If John could have made another choice, then you can see what it is. If it can happen, then it's been written. And if it's been written, you can read it right now. I don't know if I want to see. If there's no free will, then there's no regret either. Look harder. She looks harder. I'm not going to describe what she sees. First of all, that would be spoiling it. Unless you already know, in which case, I guess what's taking place here qualifies as something closer to dramatic irony. But if you really want to see it for yourself, stop what you're doing, flip the whole thing over, and begin again. I'll be right here when you get back. Waiting. Trust me, no one's going anywhere. Yep, that's Discord again. So, this is where part 2 ends, because this is where it asks you to read Candy in the middle of meat, which if you'd like to do, you can go do. I will have more parts up soon enough. Thank you for watching. Thanks a lot.